Chapter 346. Lu Tianyu held the divine weapon in his right hand as he stood upright on the ground. Then, he pointed with his left hand. Several dozen strands of saber qi revolved around his fingertips. The saber qi spun continuously, shooting at the 6 people in the air like an awl. In the pitch-black night sky, the awl-like rotating saber qi tore a spatial crack that was even darker than the night sky. The 6 people immediately scattered in the air. They executed their movement techniques and moved around, trying to avoid this strand of saber qi. Lu Tianyu's right hand, which was holding the divine weapon, flipped his palm over and faced it downwards. The divine weapon spun quickly and the condensed saber qi immediately scattered, chasing after the 6 people. The sharp saber qi danced wildly in the air. It was so fast that it was like silver lightning, tearing open spatial tears. The 6 people executed their movement techniques to their limits. The people below could not see them at all. They could only see a blurry light flickering in their vision. Miserable cries came from the air. The sharp saber qi was hard to defend against. It broke through the protective essence of the 6 people and left horrifying wounds. Using the might of the divine weapon, Lu Tianyu toyed with the 6 people in the palm of his hand. Hu Qi. Just as the 6 people were covered in injuries and were bitterly holding on, there was an intense spatial fluctuation. Suddenly, an intense spatial fluctuation appeared. Above the 6 of them, a huge spatial gate suddenly opened. Seeing the spatial gate open, the 6 of them immediately became overjoyed. A huge azure dragon image peeked out from the door. It opened its huge mouth and swallowed the 6 people. After that, the huge dragon head quickly retreated into the spatial door. Lu Tianyu snorted coldly, "You think you can come and go as you please? Who do you think my heavenly saber pavilion is?" Boom! Lu Tianyu held the divine weapon in his right hand and threw his left hand into the air. His ordinary arm immediately grew infinitely large. Just as the azure dragon was about to enter the spatial door, Lu Tianyu exerted force with his left hand and grabbed the dragon head. He exerted force with his left hand and grabbed the dragon's head. The dragon's head shook and roared, causing the sky to tremble as it tried to break free. The scabbard of the divine weapon gave off a bright light. Lu Tianyu's left hand seemed to have the power to tear the sky apart. No matter how the dragon shook and roared, it did not move. "Get back here!" Lu Tianyu shouted and pulled with his huge hand, pulling the huge blue dragon out of the spatial door. Bang, bang, bang. The huge azure dragon image's 1,000-meter-long body tumbled in the air, shattering countless mountains and pavilions in an instant. Boom! Lu Tianyu had a grave expression on his face as he swung his huge hand behind him, tossing the horrifying dragon image towards the desolate back mountains of the Lingyun mountain range. A towering mountain peak was smashed into smithereens by the dragon. The ground in the distance was covered in dust and rocks flew everywhere. The image of the dragon slowly dissipated. The 6 people in the dragon head vomited blood from the immense force. Their injuries worsened as they struggled to stand up from the ground, wanting to escape. The first elder's expression turned cold. He said, "Divine Saber Camp, heed my orders. Do not let a single one of them off." Roger. The red figures on the ground quickly leaped towards the back mountains of the Lingyun mountain range and surrounded the 6 severely injured people. After Lu Tianyu pulled the huge dragon out, he looked at the spatial door that was about to close. A murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he drew the heavenly universe saber again. A strand of resplendent golden saber qi shot out from the saber. Just as the spatial door was about to close, it shot into it. Hu Qi. Millions of kilometers away in the boundless sea, a strand of golden saber qi suddenly appeared in the sky above an island. Then, it headed for the splendid palace on the island. Everywhere it passed, the buildings of the palace crumbled. The golden saber qi directly chopped them in half. Several unlucky green-robed cultivators were chopped in half for no reason. The golden saber qi cut through everything like a hot knife through butter. It immediately flew to the main hall of the palace. A middle-aged man in azure dragon robes sat on a dragon throne in the main hall. This person looked very majestic with a high nose and large eyes. He exuded the air of a ruler. With one look, one could tell that he was a person of high status. His chi and blood flourished, and his eyes shone brightly. When the middle-aged man saw the golden saber chi breaking through the palace and flying towards him, his expression turned grave. He clenched 2 fingers on his right hand and shouted. A strand of azure-colored dragon chi came from his fingertip. The dragon head on the fingertip roared ferociously. It finally blocked this indestructible and unstoppable golden saber chi. Bang! The azure-colored dragon chi and the golden saber chi clashed, giving off an intense explosion. The raging energy immediately reduced the entire main hall to rubble. Only a lonely dragon throne remained in the vast palace. Blood leaked out of the middle-aged man's lips as he sat on the dragon throne. His complexion was somewhat pale. That strand of golden saber chi had not scattered yet. It clashed continuously with the azure-colored dragon chi at the fingertip. The middle-aged man shouted and suddenly stood up. Then, he pushed his arm forward. There was a melodious explosion, and the golden saber chi turned into countless motes of light. The motes of light were like a torrential storm as they spread out in all directions. The cultivators that rushed over were covered in wounds, their bodies mangled. 7 strong figures blasted the motes of light into nothing and landed beside the middle-aged man. When they saw the blood leaking out of the middle-aged man's mouth, they were astonished. The Dragon King, who was like a god to them, was actually injured. All of them quickly knelt down and said in fear and trepidation, "This subordinate is incompetent and caused the Dragon King to be injured." The middle-aged man known as the Dragon King took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped the blood off his lips. Then, he looked at the handkerchief and entered deep thought. Then, he casually tossed the handkerchief into the air. There was an explosion of energy, and the handkerchief immediately turned into countless pieces of cloth. He said softly, "Get up. From today onwards, the 7 of you are the new holy envoys of the Divine Dragon Palace." The hearts of the 7 people kneeling on the ground trembled, they did not feel any joy. They knew that the 7 holy envoys that went to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion probably would not return. 7 martial monarchs had died. The Divine Dragon Palace had suffered a heavy loss. The Dragon King looked into the distance, his eyes filled with infatuation. He muttered to himself, "The strength of the divine weapon is indeed strong." Unfortunately, this person did not even bring out 1/10 of its might. Back in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Lu Tianyu, who had just executed his shocking saber strike, immediately sheathed the divine weapon. The scattered wooden boxes pattered back together, completely covering up the aura of the divine weapon. Under the rock, countless black tentacles extended all over Lu Tianyu's body, making his face look very sinister. Lu Tianyu frowned and closed his eyes. Then, he started an endless battle with the tentacles. Reporting to the First Elder, the 6 people who barged into the Heavenly Saber Pavilion put up a stubborn resistance. The Divine Saber Camp suffered heavy casualties and could not capture them alive. "We could only kill them," a Divine Saber Camp high official reported in a sullen voice as he flew to Jiang Qi's side covered in injuries. Even though the martial monarchs were severely injured, the destructive power of the Divine Saber Camp still shocked this high official. Jiang Qi looked at the scene of desolation, the dead and injured Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples, and the rubble of the Lingyun mountain range. He said with a sullen expression, "Chop off their heads and hang them on the city walls of Saber City forever." "Roger." That person replied and immediately left to carry out the order. Not long after the man had left, the First Elder's expression suddenly changed. The expressions of the Peak Masters and the members of the Elders' Council who were following behind the First Elder all changed at the same time. They saw 10 golden warships outside the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's restrictions flying towards the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When they were about to touch the restrictions, they accelerated. Bang! 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 The golden horn of the ship was like a sharp knife. 10 sharp knives slowly broke through the tough restriction, and a deafening explosion resounded between heaven and earth. The Imperial Dragon Legion's flagship is actually flying over. What is Nangong Lai trying to do? A few of them exclaimed. Jiang Qi said calmly, pass the orders to the Supreme Elders. Tell them to come out and welcome them. After Jiang Qi spoke, he led the group towards the warships in the sky. They were as fast as the wind and arrived before the flagship in the blink of an eye. Jiang Qi looked at Nangong Lai, who was clad in golden battle armor and had an exuberant qi and blood soaring into the sky. He said coldly, Nangong Lai, what are you trying to do? Under the fluttering golden banner, Nangong Lai looked at the devastated Lingyun mountain range. He smiled gently and said, Brother Jiang, there is no need to be anxious. I just saw that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is facing a great enemy, so I came to help. With the Imperial Dragon Legion's help, we will be able to eliminate the remnants. Jiang Qi smiled coldly, many thanks for General Nangong's kind intentions. The enemy has already been dealt with by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. General Nangong can return now. Nangong Yen laughed loudly, I have good intentions. Brother Jiang, why are you chasing me away in such a rush? Today's enemies have already been defeated. What about tomorrow and the day after? Such a huge loss, I'm afraid the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will not be able to endure it for long. How about this? Our Imperial Dragon Legion will send a warship to guard the Heavenly Saber Pavilion for a long time, helping the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to defend against the enemy. The Imperial Dragon Legion is still quite strong. Hu Qi. Hu Qi. Right after Nangong Yen spoke, aside from the largest flagship, the other 9 warships opened their cannons on both sides. Ancient demonic energy cannons revealed their malevolent faces. Countless golden talisman scripts appeared around the warship, flickering with a dazzling light. The few elders behind Jiang Qi all had sullen expressions. Rage burned in their hearts. Nangong Lai was blatantly threatening the Heavenly Saber Pavilion after seeing the heavy losses. The royal clan and the 3 great sects had always been on guard against each other. The royal clan of any empire did not wish to see a power that could threaten the royal clan. However, aside from being on guard, the sects and the royal clan relied on each other to a certain extent. There had to be strong sects within a nation. The more sects there were, the stronger the nation would be. However, there was a precondition. The royal clan had to have absolute power to suppress these sections. Otherwise, they would always be a hidden danger in the eyes of the royal clan. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion, which possessed a divine weapon, was such a sect. 20 years ago, the previous pavilion master of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was an absolute genius. The sect was filled with talents and experts. The sect was the strongest of the 3 great sections. With the might of a divine weapon, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was a peak power in the entire Tianwu continent. The people of the royal clan felt immense pressure. However, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was not very lucky. When the demonic calamity broke out, nearly all the experts of the older generation died. The genius pavilion master even died in battle. The strength of the entire sect was greatly reduced. Chapter 347. In order to prevent the resurgence of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, the royal court had been looking for an opportunity to make a move. Now, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was in trouble again. The Qin Emperor decisively made a move, wanting to station a warship in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was like stabbing a sharp knife into the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. It could greatly restrict the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's development. Jiang Qi's expression remained calm when he saw the golden warships firing on all cylinders. He said indifferently, Nangong Lai, it looks like you really like to play with fire. In that case, I will play with you. Nangong Lai's eyelids sank. He thought to himself, could it be that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion still has some trump cards? Impossible. Nangong Lai shook his head and said indifferently, if they really had a trump card, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would not have been reduced to rubble. How could a great sect watch as their own sect was destroyed like that? Even if they had one, they would have used it already. After the consecutive battles, they probably did not have much combat prowess left. Nangong Lai continued to smile indifferently. Brother Jiang Qi, it was not my idea to station a warship in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. You should know whose idea it is. I hope you will not make things difficult for me. Jiang Qi said indifferently, in that case, get him to come and talk to me personally. Before Nangong Lai could say anything, an adjutant at the side shouted, how dare you speak to His Majesty like that? Is the Emperor someone you can meet whenever you want? How dare you speak to Elder Jiang Qi like that? Why are you still not apologizing to Elder Jiang? Nangong Lai pretended to reprimand the adjutant. After that, he turned to Jiang Qi and smiled, my subordinate did not know the rules. I will teach him a lesson for Brother Jiang later. Jiang Qi's expression was very calm. His eyes did not change. He said indifferently, there's no need. He is already dead. Nangong Lai's expression changed. He looked to the side and saw a tiny wound on the adjutant's neck. The faint wound looked negligible to the naked eye. The adjutant did not feel any pain, he did not even notice the wound on his neck. You want to take my life? You cannot do that, the adjutant said indifferently as he looked at Jiang Qi. However, the adjutant saw shock in Nangong Lai's eyes. The adjutant turned his head to look suspiciously. However, he saw a headless corpse wearing golden battle armor standing behind him. Why does this corpse look so familiar? The adjutant's last thought as his head flew into the air. Bang! Nangong Lai punched the air in front of him to his right. This punch was clearly in the air, but it produced a deafening sound. The huge battleship shook uncontrollably under the force of this punch. The void shattered, and a blood-red figure emerged from the crack. He wore a ghostly mask with a faint smile on his face, and his right hand held a cold mask. The scarlet figure gently floated and appeared at the top of the ship like a ghost. When Nangong Lai saw this person, his expression turned grave for the first time. He exclaimed in shock, Shiman Zhan, you are actually not dead yet. Shiman Zhan was the previous commander of the Divine Saber Camp. Now, he was more than 190 years old. Before he went into seclusion, he was already a peak medial grade martial monarch. Shiman smiled faintly, little brat Nangong, do you really wish for this old man to die? Boom boom boom. From the east, south, west, and north, 4 powerful auras rose one after another. These auras soared into the sky, spreading out endlessly. They were all the auras of peak superior grade martial monarchs. When Nangong Lai saw these people, his expression changed drastically. He muttered to himself, Shen Manjun, the previous 2 peak masters of Jade Maiden Peak, Xiao Feng, the previous peak master of Qianduan Peak, Song Bai, the previous peak master of Biyun Peak, and Lu Xiaohe, the previous peak master of Gangyu Peak. Not only were these people not dead, but their auras were also flourishing. Their qi and blood surged. Clearly, they had not gone through a huge battle, they were all at their peak. Among the 4, a white figure slowly floated over. It was the Jade Maiden Peak's Shen Manjun. Nangong Lai looked at the otherworldly Shen Manjun and did not dare to be impudent. Before he became famous, she had already become famous throughout the entire Great Qin nation. When Nangong Lai was young, he had even secretly worshipped Shen Manjun. Originally, he thought that she had died long ago. He did not expect her to appear before him in one piece. Nangong Lai, Jiang Qi said that the Qin Emperor cannot come personally. In that case, can I make the request? Shen Manjun asked indifferently as she looked at Nangong Lai. Nangong Lai cried bitterly in his heart. He had not expected the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to have 5 martial monarchs in perfect condition. Furthermore, there was a martial monarch who was even more horrifying than him. With the strength of the Imperial Dragon Legion, it was not impossible to defeat these people. However, the price they would have to pay would be too high. Furthermore, the Qin Emperor did not intend to destroy the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. He only wanted to take advantage of the situation and suppress the other party's strength, taking things step by step. It was not an all-out war with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Starting a war with a sect would have too many implications. It would be hard to avoid the suspicions of the other two great sections. Nangong Lai's expression kept changing. After a while, he slowly calmed down. He smiled gently and said, "Senior Shen, this is really just a misunderstanding. Since the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has resolved its crisis, the Imperial Dragon Legion has no intention of remaining." After Nangong Lai spoke, he took out a row of wooden chests and said, "There are 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones here. Consider it compensation for the Imperial Dragon Legion for breaking the restrictions. Goodbye." Jiang Qi received the wooden chests and felt humiliated in his heart. He wished he could smash the wooden chests into smithereens. Shen Manjun, who was beside him, placed her hand gently on his shoulder. A gentle wave of essence spread over, calming his agitated heart. Jiang Qi quickly thanked her, "Many thanks, ancestral martial aunt." Jiang Qi is useless, causing the Heavenly Saber Pavilion to be humiliated several times. Shen Manjun smiled gently and said, "You have already done very well. Don't blame yourself. There is still hope for the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The news of the 3 holy masters should arrive tomorrow." The 10 golden warships of the Imperial Dragon Legion immediately turned around and left. Before the gazes of the experts of the Shihe province, they slowly withdrew from the Lingyun mountain range. He came and went in and out in a hurry. Many people scratched their heads as they watched, not knowing what was going on inside. The Imperial Dragon Legion came out in full force. It was clear they wanted to take advantage of the situation. However, not long after they entered, they retreated safely. It did not seem like there was a dispute. Halfway up Qingyun Peak, Shaoqin saw all this. He shook his head and thought to himself, "In the end, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has declined." Although the Imperial Dragon Legion left behind 10,000 medial-grade spirit stones, they could come and go as they pleased. In the eyes of the world, it was easy to tell who was strong and who was weak. Lu Ryue looked at her ruined courtyard and shook her head. She smiled bitterly and said, "Yi Chen, I am homeless now." Shaoqin collected his thoughts and smiled gently, "You can come to my place and stay for a while. There are still empty rooms in the courtyard. You can come back after the courtyard is repaired." Lu Ryue smiled and said, "It is settled, then. I will go to the summit to see my father first. I will see you tomorrow." Shaoqin was slightly stunned. He did not expect Lu Ryue to agree so straightforwardly. Originally, he was just saying it casually. By the time he recovered his wits, Lu Ryue had already gone far away. Shaoqin revealed a faint smile and shook his head slightly. Then, he quickly headed to his courtyard. This unprecedented battle gave Shaoqin a lot of thoughts. This was the first time he saw the true destructive power of a peak human cultivator. The so-called splitting mountains, moving rivers, and draining seas were not just legends. In the past, he had only heard of it. Now that he saw it for himself, he truly felt the shock in his heart. Furthermore, this was only the strength of a martial monarch. There was still the martial sage Emperor Wu. Just thinking about it made his blood boil. I still have a long way to go. Sooner or later, Shaoqin will become such an expert. No, I will be stronger than these people. I will rise to the heavens and reach the peak of cultivators. My name will be spread through the ages, just like the Tianwu Emperor from 10,000 years ago and the Thunder King from 1,000 years ago. Shaoqin's emotions surged. He swore in his heart that he would definitely achieve this. The sun was high up in the sky, the weather was pleasant, there were no clouds in the sky. In a place with abundant spiritual energy in the back mountains of Qingyun Peak, Shaoqin sat cross-legged on the ground. He slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. The purple essence circulated quickly in his meridians, breaking through all the obstacles along the way. It was an endless cycle. There were 9 main meridians in a cultivator's body. When a cultivator condensed their martial spirit, they would instantly open up. The 9 main meridians were very important, they were the foundation of a cultivator's cultivation. The so-called essence circulating in the meridians was actually a cycle in the 9 main meridians. After that, as a cultivator's cultivation realm increased, there would be new branch meridians outside of the main meridians. The number of branch meridians in the human body could be said to be as many as the stars in the sky. With every increase in cultivation realm, there would be many more branch meridians. These branch meridians were the expansion of the main meridians. It was like the countless branches of a tree. The more branch meridians there were, the more flourishing the tree would be. It was the same principle for cultivators. The more branch meridians there were, the more vigorous and surging the essence in the body would be. The so-called essence circulating in a great cycle referred to the essence circulating in the 9 main meridians once before going to the various branch meridians and returning to the dantian. It grew and multiplied endlessly, forming a virtuous cycle. After every cycle, the quality and quantity of essence qi would increase. This was the essence of cultivation. However, Xiaochen felt a headache over this branch meridian, he felt very depressed. Not long ago, Xiaochen relied on the rich spiritual energy of the Lingyun mountain range to finally reach the peak of the 5th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Just as he was preparing to break through to the 6th layer, suddenly, he discovered that the branch meridians required to cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation were not fully opened. 4 of them were still sealed. This way, the path of the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation would be incomplete. There was no way to form a cycle, and he would not be able to cultivate the 6th layer. Now, there were 2 solutions. The first was to temporarily give up on cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. He would wait until his cultivation realm increased and these branch meridians opened up before he attempted to break through. In reality, most of the cultivators in this continent did the same. This was because many cultivation techniques had very strict requirements on cultivation realms. Furthermore, the person who created the cultivation technique did not do it on purpose. Only when one reached the corresponding cultivation realm and cultivated the corresponding cultivation technique could the cycle progress gradually. It would not result in a situation of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. Chapter 348. There was another method, which was to use essence to forcefully open these minor meridians. Once the minor meridians were opened, he could cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. This way, Xiaochen's strength could increase rapidly in a short period of time. However, the difficulty of breaking through was not mentioned. Forcefully opening 4 minor meridians in one go would definitely leave behind some hidden dangers. If not dealt with properly, it would greatly affect his cultivation in the future. After the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation circulated a major cycle in his body, Xiaochen opened his eyes. A purple light flashed in his eyes, illuminating the dark forest for an instant. The light flashed for a moment before it was hidden in the depths of his eyes. As he looked at the purple lightning-attributed energy in the air, Xiaochen casually waved his hand. The purple energy instantly formed a whirlpool and gathered on his palm, forming a clump of purple flame. Xiaochen pushed his hand forward, and purple flames shot out. The trees in front of him were silently burned to ashes without a sound. Bang! In the end, the purple flames crashed into a mountain wall and immediately blasted open a large hole with a diameter of 100 meters. The mountain gently shook a few times and a piece of rock fell down with a crashing sound. A casual strike could have such an effect. In the past, Xiaochen would have been a little proud. However, after seeing the strength of a peak martial monarch, Xiaochen knew that this was not worth mentioning. In the eyes of a true expert, it was like child's play. Recollecting his thoughts, Xiaochen stood up and muttered, "I am now a peak medial grade martial saint. I need to open 4 minor meridians. When I advance to superior grade martial saint, I will open one of the minor meridians. When I advance to peak superior grade martial saint, I will open another one. When I advance to martial king, I will open the remaining 2. That is to say, I can only truly cultivate the sixth layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation when I advance to Martial King. This was a difficult choice. Forcefully breaking through would be risky. If I waited until I advanced to Martial King, it would waste too much time. Never mind, I will not think about it for now. I will go back and discuss it with Lu Riyue and hear her opinion. Xiaoqin shook his head slightly and stopped thinking about this problem. Then, he walked towards his courtyard. At this moment, 3 days had passed since the startling battle in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. During these 3 days, everyone in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was very busy. They repaired the destroyed palaces and buildings, and also treated the unlucky disciples who were affected by the aftermath of the battle. As for the elders, they were even busier. Not only were they busy giving orders to these trifling matters, but they were also very busy. He also had to calculate how great the loss was this time, comfort the people, compensate the families of the deceased, and so on, a series of things that he had to worry about. In these 3 days, all sorts of rumors about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion spread throughout the Shiha province. Many experts had personally witnessed the sudden heavy losses. Furthermore, the Imperial Dragon Legion could enter and leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion as they pleased. There was no way to hide this. As the rumors spread, they became even more ridiculous. Someone said that the Supreme Elders of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had all died in battle, more than half of the core disciples were dead, and the first elder was killed by the enemy. All sorts of rumors magnified the losses of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When Xiaoqin thought about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's decision to postpone the inner disciple ranking competition at the end of the year, he could not help but think that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had declined. A portion of the small sects and clans that maintained a subordinate relationship with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion also felt uneasy. What made Xiaoqin feel strange was that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion did not provide any explanation for these rumors. They did not care about the rumors in the outside world. They focused all their attention on repairing the destroyed buildings and treating the disciples. In Xiaoqian's opinion, although the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had declined, it was still the strongest power in the Shiha province. They had 5 supreme elders who were martial monarchs. This already left the other powers far behind. Furthermore, there was a mysterious expert who wielded a divine weapon. Furthermore, they firmly controlled a spirit vein that could continuously produce spirit stones. With such accumulations, their position as the strongest sect in the Shiha province could not be shaken. In this disaster, the only one that suffered a greater loss was the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Divine Saber Camp. However, although the 2 commanders were severely injured, they survived in the end. However, Xiaoqin could not be bothered with these things. He only thought about them when he was bored. He spent most of his time cultivating. Even without circulating his movement technique, Xiaoqin moved very fast. Before he knew it, he had arrived at his courtyard. Lu Riyue and Bai were currently playing Gamoku at the stone table in the courtyard. Gamoku was something that Xiaoqin had created when he was bored. It could be considered a nostalgia for that world. Whenever he had free time, he would play a few rounds with Bai. Bai was very intelligent. She only needed to explain the rules to learn it. Furthermore, she improved very quickly. It would not be easy for Xiaoqin to defeat her now. Xiaoqin walked over quietly and looked at the situation on the board. Unexpectedly, Lu Riyue had the upper hand. Bai was busy thinking of countermeasures. She looked very adorable. Lu Riyue looked at Xiaoqin beside her and smiled gently, "You're back. It seems like your strength has improved again." Xiaoqin smiled and replied, "I ran into some trouble. You play first, I will discuss it with you later." When Bai saw Xiaoqin arrive, she immediately smiled joyfully, "Elder brother Yichen, quickly teach me how to play. Elder sister Riyue is too incredible. I have not been able to defeat her even once." Ever since Lu Riyue arrived, Xiaoqin told Bai to call him by his alias. Although Bai did not understand why, she still did as she was told. Xiaoqin gently patted Bai's head and smiled, "Use your own brain. You cannot rely on others to guide you when playing Go. You have to train your thinking. Bai pouted and said, elder brother Yuqin just likes to side with elder sister Ryue. He is not willing to help Bai. Xiaoqin shook his head and smiled faintly. He ignored Bai's words and walked to the side to rest. After a while, Bai, who had lost to Lu Ryue again, put away the Go board and said, Woo, elder sister Ryue is too incredible. Bai will not play with you anymore. Hee, Bai, go and look for elder sister Xiao Meng. Even if Xiao Meng and Xiao Yang worked together, they would not be able to defeat Bai. After she spoke, she put away the Go board and skipped out of the courtyard. She did not seem dispirited at all. Clearly, she did not care about winning or losing. After Bai left, Xiaoqin opened his eyes and walked over to Lu Ryue. Lu Ryue asked, what trouble did you run into? Let me see if I can help you. Xiaoqin nodded and told Lu Ryue about the difficulties he faced when cultivating the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation in detail. After Lu Ryue heard it, she frowned slightly. Her face, which was filled with a mature charm, revealed a contemplative expression. After a while, Lu Ryue relaxed her frown and revealed a smile. She said softly, let's see if we can do it this way. Opening 4 minor meridians in one go is indeed risky. However, if we only open 2, the risk will not be as high. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. He said, are you saying that I should wait until I become a peak superior grade martial saint before forcefully opening the other 2 minor meridians? Lu Ryue nodded and said, that's right. At that time, you will be breaking through to Martial King. If you can cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, breaking through to Martial King will be much easier. When preparing to open the minor meridians, remember to prepare some spirit herbs for nourishing the meridians. If you can buy medicinal pills for nourishing the meridians, that would be for the best. A forcefully opened meridian is much weaker than a naturally opened meridian. If it is not well protected, this minor meridian will slowly be crippled in the future. On the other hand, if you take good care of it, there will not be any hidden dangers in the meridians. Xiao Chen's mind suddenly became clear. Although he still needed some time to cultivate to peak Martial Saint, it was much faster than cultivating to Martial King. Furthermore, according to Lu Ryue's method, breaking through to Martial King would be much easier. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. He thanked her, Ryue, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have helped me greatly again. Lu Ryue smiled gently. When she saw Xiao Chen's happy smile, she felt happy for him as well. That's right, my father wants you to go to the summit tonight. He has something to discuss with you, Lu Ryue suddenly said, as though she recalled something. The night sky was dark and filled with stars. Xiao Chen looked at the summit of Qingyun Peak. His eyes were filled with hesitation. If there was one person in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that could make Xiao Chen feel fear from the bottom of his heart, that person would be Lu Tianyu. Regardless of whether it was someone as strong as Song Ke or someone as powerful as the First Elder, although Xiao Chen feared them, he did not feel any fear. This was because he could see through these people. He could tell where their limits were. Since he knew their limits, naturally, he had nothing to fear. However, there was only Lu Tianyu. If Xiao Chen could avoid meeting him, he would do so. When Xiao Chen first arrived at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, this person gave him a scabbard to help him cover up the traces left by the Thunder King on the lunar shadow saber. With one glance, Lu Tianyu saw through Xiao Chen's identity as the Thunder King's inheritor. After that, he half-coerced and half-bribed Xiao Chen into sending him into a different dimension. He had narrowly escaped with his life. Before Lu Tianyu, Xiao Chen did not have any secrets. Such a person was terrifying. No matter how unwilling he was, Xiao Chen had to go. This person could not even afford to hide. Xiao Chen calmed his emotions and pushed off the ground. He dashed up the steps leading up the mountain. When he arrived at the cliff, he used the gravity spell and soared into the air. After a while, he landed firmly on the ground. A strong wind blew endlessly at the summit. Xiao Chen's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. He could not even keep his eyes open. Lu Tianyu sat cross-legged on that strange rock. When the wind blew past him, it was like he was air, there were no ripples at all. The two of them stood on the summit, one quiet and the other moving. The difference in their cultivations was clear. Lu Tianyu opened his eyes. His somewhat turbid eyes looked at Xiao Chen quietly. Lu Tianyu's face was filled with wrinkles. He looked even older than before. There were signs of aging between his eyebrows. Lu Tianyu's gaze made Xiao Chen's hair stand on end. He quickly asked, "Senior, why are you looking for me? I hope you can tell me." Chapter 349. Lu Tianyu was not in a rush to reply to Xiao Chen. He looked at Xiao Chen and revealed a smile on his aged face. He said in a drawn-out manner, "There is something I would like to ask for your help with." Xiao Chen smiled faintly. "Senior must be joking again. You can even draw the divine weapon. Is there anything in this world that you can do? I am just a mere martial saint. How can I accept such a favor?" Without hesitation, Xiao Chen rejected Lu Tianyu's request immediately. Now that he no longer owed Lu Tianyu a favor, there was no need for him to put himself in danger. Lu Tianyu's favor was not that easy to help. Lu Tianyu was not surprised at Xiao Chen's rejection. He stared at Xiao Chen without saying a word. Lu Tianyu's gaze did not contain any irrelevant thoughts. He allowed Lu Tianyu to roar, not saying a word as he looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen felt very uncomfortable being stared at by Lu Tianyu. After a while, he could not take it anymore and said, "Tell me what you need help with first." Lu Tianyu squinted his eyes and revealed a smile on his face. He said, "I just know that young hero Yi is young and promising. You have the heart of a bodhisattva and love to help others. You will take pity on an old man like me." Xiao Chen interrupted, "Please, don't flatter me. Just say it directly." Lu Tianyu waved his hand and the wooden box with the words, "Like the emperor descending personally," was sucked over by his palm, rolling around in the air. "I would like to give this divine weapon to you," Lu Tianyu said seriously as he withdrew his smile. Xiao Chen's heart trembled, it felt like waves were surging in his mind. No matter how resilient he was, when he heard that Lu Tianyu wanted to give him a divine weapon, he could not help but feel excited. However, in the blink of an eye, Xiao Chen calmed down. An innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. Without the corresponding strength, trying to obtain the divine weapon was akin to seeking death. Furthermore, Lu Tianyu would not give him the divine weapon for no reason. This was the foundation of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. How could they give it to someone else so easily? "Help me pass this to someone. When he sees the divine weapon, he will know everything." As expected, Lu Tianyu quickly replied. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly in his heart, "Senior, can you finish your words in one breath? Handing over the divine weapon to me, aren't you afraid that I'll pocket it for myself?" Lu Tianyu said indifferently, "Even if you want to use it, you won't be able to pull it out. To you, it is just a piece of scrap metal." Within the strong wind, Xiao Chen closed his eyes and entered deep thought. After a long time, he opened his eyes and said, "Sorry, I really cannot do this. There are many experts in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Why did Senior choose me?" The incident from 3 days ago was still fresh in his mind. The temptation of a divine weapon was too great. The other party did not even care about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and directly charged over. What ability did he have to protect the divine weapon? Not to mention a peak martial monarch, even a superior-grade martial king would be able to defeat him easily. Lu Tianyu said indifferently. There was a sorrowful tone in his voice as he said, "Who in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would agree to hand the divine weapon to someone else? The Heavenly Saber Pavilion is currently plagued with internal and external problems. A storm is brewing. This is the most dangerous period since the establishment of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This is also the last wish of this old man. I hope little brother will not reject it." Xiao Chen did not understand. Lin Liusu advanced to peak inferior grade martial king at the age of 17. The three holy masters will send people to the heavenly saber pavilion. With the support of the Holy Lands, who would be foolish enough to oppose the heavenly saber pavilion? Lu Tianyu shook his head and said, if this old man could move freely, I would do my best to prevent this from happening. There would not be a good result from interacting with the three holy masters. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, the three holy masters are detached from the world. They possess absolute strength and are not under the jurisdiction of any royal clan. Their methods are heaven-defying. There will only be benefits to having them backing us. There will not be any benefits. Lu Tianyu smiled coldly and said, how foolish. There are many peak powers in this continent. Do you know who, aside from the three holy masters, is the true ruler of the world? Do you know how big this world is? You can imagine how dangerous the competition between the peak powers is. Everyone in the world is motivated by benefits. If they cannot obtain something, they will not let others obtain it. There has never been a true savior of the world. As for how big the world was, how many peak powers there were in the continent, and who was the true ruler of the world, Xiao Chen did not know. Lu Tianyu's series of questions rendered Xiao Chen speechless. He could not think of any rebuttal. Cough. Cough. After Lu Tianyu spoke, his expression suddenly turned extremely unsightly. He could not help but cough. Black lines appeared on his face. He looked like he was in great pain. Xiao Chen was startled. He quickly went forward and asked, Senior, what's wrong? Don't come over. Lu Tianyu's expression turned sinister as he shouted. A horrifying death qi emanated from his body. Xiao Chen's expression sank. He placed his right hand on his saber hilt and retreated, landing at the edge of the cliff. That death qi penetrated deep into one's heart. Xiao Chen had never seen such a pure death qi before. It made him tremble in fear, as though death was just around the corner. Countless black tentacles appeared on the cliff, entangling Lu Tianyu's body. Lu Tianyu's expression remained calm as he endured bitterly. After a long time, the black tentacles slowly faded away. Lu Tianyu's expression calmed down again. However, his face seemed even more aged, as though he had aged 10 years in an instant. Lu Tianyu shook his head and smiled bitterly. I originally thought that I could still hold on for a while. I did not expect that I would be unable to hold on so soon. Little friend, this is the last time this old man will ask of you. Please help me pass the divine weapon to that person. Hu Qi. Lu Tianyu waved his hand, and the wooden box containing the divine weapon flew towards him. Xiao Chen could not dodge in time, so he could only stretch out his hand and receive the wooden box. The wooden box felt heavy in his hand. It was clearly very heavy. Xiao Chen placed the wooden box at his feet and asked, what happened earlier? Lu Tianyu waved his hand and said, it was just a high-ranked demon that occupied my body for 20 years. You don't have to bother about it. Unless the divine weapon is of the Saber Emperor's bloodline, it will not be able to bring out its true strength. It will not even be able to draw the saber. When the previous pavilion master handed it to me, he left behind a holy seal. Now, I am passing it to you. When you need it, you can draw this divine weapon. Hu Qi. Lu Tianyu stretched out his hand and pointed. A resplendent holy seal appeared on his fingertip and flew into Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness. Xiao Chen was shocked. He could feel the resplendent holy seal in his sea of consciousness with his spiritual sense. When he looked carefully, he discovered that it was a drop of golden blood. It looks like this hot potato has fallen into my hands. Xiao Chen withdrew it and sighed to himself. Where is this person? How do I find him? What is his name? Xiao Chen asked. Lu Tianyu replied, he is the younger brother of the previous pavilion master. His name is Ling Tianhe. He left the Heavenly Saber Pavilion several decades ago. I do not know where he is either. Xiao Chen really wanted to curse. He did not even know where this person was. How was he going to find him? Lu Tianyu smiled and said, I believe you will find him. Let's go quickly. After using the divine weapon recklessly, I have exhausted too much energy. I can no longer suppress him. Now, I have to seal myself in ice. A strong force pushed Xiaochen down without any explanation. Frost slowly covered Lu Tianyu's body. The cold qi quickly spread out. Soon, he turned into an ice sculpture. The cold qi continued to spread out and soon covered the entire summit. In the next moment, the entire summit, including Lu Tianyu, was completely sealed in ice. Xiaochen hugged the wooden box and quickly descended. A strong wind blew by his sides. When he saw the summit covered in frost, he felt very complicated. Xiaochen placed the wooden box into his universe ring and quickly returned to his courtyard. Lu Ryue had not gone to sleep yet, she was standing quietly in the courtyard. Xiaochen hesitated for a while before he told Lu Ryue everything that happened at the summit in full detail. Who knew that after Lu Ryue heard this, her expression did not change. She did not seem surprised. Lu Ryue smiled bitterly and explained, back then, when he handed Qingyun to me, he told me that the high-ranked demon was a demon second only to the blood demon general. The demon's soul had been attached to his body for close to 20 years. Actually, he had been in pain all this while. He was just unwilling to tell me. Sealing him in ice might be the best outcome. Lu Ryue paused for a while before continuing, you don't have to worry too much about the divine weapon. If you place it in the wooden box, no one will sense it. Xiaochen smiled gently and said, that is all I can do. There are so many people here, it is too difficult to find a person. You should sleep early. If there is a way to save your father in the future, I will think of a way to help. Lu Ryue nodded and said, in that case, thank you in advance. You should rest early as well. Don't give yourself too much pressure. Early the next morning, Xiaochen continued to cultivate as usual. He did not put too much pressure on himself because of the divine weapon. However, he was not in a rush to cultivate the Purple Thunder divine incantation. Instead, he focused on the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. Since the Purple Thunder divine incantation met with resistance, he might as well focus on cultivating the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. In the back mountains, under a gushing waterfall, Xiaochen sat cross-legged in the surging water. He used the strictest method to cultivate the final layer of dragon essence and tiger fierceness. The body tempering art was much more arduous and difficult than the cultivation of cultivation techniques. Aside from the endless loneliness, the body had to endure tremendous pressure at all times. In the blink of an eye, 7 days passed. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion used a lot of manpower to repair the destroyed buildings. Within 7 days, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion completely restored the buildings to their former glory. At the same time, they released a piece of shocking news. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's young pavilion master, Ling Liusu, advanced to peak inferior grade Martial King at the age of 17. The Phoenix's Passion Palace, one of the 3 holy masters, would be sending experts to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion at the beginning of the next month to help the Heavenly Saber Pavilion seal the spatial crack. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion would be holding a grand welcoming ceremony on the Heaven Ascending platform. At the same time, they would send out invitations to the various sects and clans within the Great Qin nation to attend the ceremony. Unexpectedly, the legendary 3 holy masters would be coming to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Furthermore, they had produced an absolute genius who advanced to peak inferior grade Martial King at the age of 17. In an instant, the unfavorable rumors about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion vanished like smoke in thin air. The restless subordinate sects of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion immediately sent people to present gifts to show their loyalty. There were also many leaders of the major powers who personally paid a visit. They brought valuable gifts, hoping to form an alliance with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion, which had many visitors, immediately became crowded. Chapter 350. This was the influence of the 3 holy masters. Just the news of them coming to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion immediately eliminated all the unfavorable rumors about the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. When they passed by Saber City and saw the heads of the Divine Dragon Palace's 7 holy envoys, the shock in their hearts was indescribable. They became even more determined to form a good relationship with the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Xiao Chen, who had heard this news from Lu Suifeng, did not feel any change in his emotions. He only responded indifferently and ignored it. Seeing Xiao Chen's calm expression, Lu Suifeng said somewhat depressedly, "Yi Chen, why do you not seem surprised at all? The Phoenix's Passion Palace is one of the 3 Holy Masters' lands. This is one of the few big things that happened in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion in recent years." Xiao Chen smiled faintly, "Don't get agitated yet. Your sister told me about this long ago. I was already agitated once. Do you want me to be agitated again?" Lu Suifeng became even more depressed. "Why is my sister so biased? She actually hid it from her little brother and refused to tell me." Xiao Chen smiled and said, "After I tell you, Chu Xinyun will know immediately. After that, the people of Jade Maiden Peak will know. After that, the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion will know." Lu Suifeng said innocently, "Do I look like someone who likes to be in the limelight?" Xiao Chen countered with a question, "Is that not the case?" Lu Suifeng was speechless. "Never mind, let's not talk about this. I heard that aside from the royal court, almost all the major powers in the Great Qin nation will be there for the welcoming ceremony. All the outstanding youths of the Great Qin nation will gather. At that time, there will be an even more exciting competition than the inner disciple competition." Xiao Chen felt suspicious and asked, "Why? There are no prizes. What is the point of coming to the competition?" "Prizes?" Lu Suifeng smiled and said, "What kind of prize would be more enticing than being chosen by the Holy Land? Such things have happened before. The Holy Land has always been searching for genius cultivators. This is something that everyone knows. The Holy Land is the only power that systematically grasps ancient martial techniques. It is rumored that the place where the Holy Land is located is the place with the densest heaven and earth spiritual qi. If you cultivate there, your cultivation will skyrocket. Once you enter the Holy Land, your family and sect will be protected." Xiao Chen frowned slightly. If that was the case, Duan Muqing, Shi Feng, Hua Yunfei, Ji Changkong, Chu Chaoyun, and the others would probably come. For the sake of their respective clans, they would definitely show off in front of the Holy Land. I feel that you should work hard to fight for it. With your talent, it is very likely that you will be chosen by the Holy Land, Lu Suifeng said seriously. Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, "It's not realistic to think about this. It's better to cultivate on your own. It's better to advance steadily and surely. There are no shortcuts on the path of cultivation." Lu Suifeng thought about it and agreed. He said, "I will not disturb you anymore. Continue cultivating. Even if you do not enter the Holy Land, you should still work hard. If you can perform well in the competition, it would be more useful than getting first place among the inner disciples." When Xiao Chen heard this, he entered deep thought. "I want to get first place among the inner disciples because I want to make a name for Qingyun Peak. It looks like I have a better way to do so. Representing Qingyun Peak in the Great Qin nation, defeating the outstanding talents of the various places and obtaining first place would have a better effect. Yes, it's decided," Xiao Chen thought to himself. "This is the last thing I should do before I leave the Heavenly Saber Pavilion." With a goal in mind, Xiao Chen worked even harder on his cultivation. He spent all his time on breaking through to the final layer of the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. He would do his best to completely cultivate the dragon tendon tiger bone before the end of the month, allowing his body to undergo a complete rebirth. The waterfall rushed down with a force of tens of thousands of kilograms. Xiao Chen sat cross-legged at the bottom of the waterfall. The rapid waterfall struck Xiao Chen at every moment. Every time it struck, the force would reach 5,000 kilograms of force. Even a regular martial king would not dare to try such a relentless attack for a long period of time. However, Xiaochen was as calm as a rock. He closed his eyes and allowed the torrent to strike his body. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated continuously in his body. Only under such high pressure could his body be in an excited state. Only then could the dragon and tiger body sculpting art make a breakthrough in a short time. Otherwise, if he relied on normal methods, he would need at least 3 months to succeed. After consuming the fasting pill, Xiaochen no longer needed to eat or rest. He just sat under the waterfall day and night. The sun rose and set in the west. It was like Xiaochen had forgotten about time. He cultivated bitterly day by day, day by day. He was already numb to the pain. All that was left was the thought of victory in his heart. He did his best to persevere. In the forest outside the waterfall, Lu Riyue watched as Xiaochen cultivated bitterly for 15 days without eating or drinking. Her eyes turned slightly moist and her heart ached. Pa! 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 Lu Riyue clenched her right fist and punched Lu Suifeng's back repeatedly. It's all your fault, you bastard. Who asked you to talk about a competition with him? He is working so hard now. What if something happens to him? Lu Suifeng begged for mercy. Sis, I was wrong. Stop hitting me. I was really just saying it casually. I did not expect Yi Chen to work so hard. Pu Ci. Bai flew over and joined the group beating up Lu Suifeng. She pouted and said, Elder brother Suifeng is too bad. Elder brother Yi Chen has not eaten for 15 days. It's all your fault. Seeing the enraged Bai, Lu Suifeng wanted to cry but no tears came out. He thought about the days Bai messed with him. He knew he could not stay here any longer, so he quickly left. How could Bai let him go so easily? She chased him through the forest, causing him to flee. Damn it, why am I so unlucky? Indeed, offending women is the most horrifying thing. Unexpectedly, I offended 2 in one go. As Lu Suifeng dodged Bai's attacks, he sighed, Yi Chen, wake up quickly. If you still don't wake up, elder brother will die soon. Boom. Just at this moment, Xiaochen, who was below the waterfall, suddenly opened his eyes. He shouted and his qi rushed to the sky. The torrential waterfall actually flowed in reverse under this roar, forming a wave that soared into the sky. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art reached great perfection. Bang! Bang! The final 2 acupoints on Xiaochen's right arm opened. From now on, all 16 acupoints on his right arm were opened. Beams of azure light came from the Laogong acupoint on Xiaochen's palm. Following that was the Daling acupoint, the Neguan acupoint, and the final 16 acupoints. The azure light gathered and formed an azure dragon. The azure light blasted the clothes on his arm into pieces, revealing Xiaochen's smooth arm. After a while, all the azure light gathered in the flesh on his arm, forming a blue dragon tattoo on his right arm. The dragon's head was on his wrist, the dragon's body was on his arm, and the dragon's tail was on his shoulder. When Xiaochen looked carefully, this blue dragon tattoo seemed to be alive. Every scale was very lifelike. The pitch-black eyes were tightly shut, as though they could open at any moment. The dragon's aura was very serene, as though it was in a deep sleep. However, Xiaochen could feel the surging energy. When the blue dragon opened its eyes, it would be able to overturn rivers and seas, move mountains, and split rocks. He would be able to overturn rivers and seas, move mountains and crack rocks. Even the heavens and earth would not be able to contain him. Hua la la. After Xiaochen exhausted his qi, the waterfall above him came crashing down again. The higher it flew, the greater the weight and force of the fall. This time, it was probably 25,000 kilograms of force. Xiaochen did not show any fear. He looked at the waterfall above him and smiled gently. Then, he opened his palm and clenched it into a fist. The instant Xiaochen clenched his fist, the bones in his hand crackled. With a thought, the vital qi in his meridians surged. Boom! Xiaochen punched at the sky. A berserk fist wind carried a boundless aura as it surged forward. A formless energy split the waterfall in half. The surging waterfall immediately split into two halves on either side of Xiao Chen's body. The energy did not lose any momentum. After it split the waterfall, it soared into the sky. The energy pierced through a passing flying spirit beast. It cried out miserably and fell to the ground. When Xiao Chen saw the might of this punch, he said indifferently, "In the past, a casual punch from me could reach 25,000 kilograms of force. That should have been enough to break through this waterfall. However, it was impossible to refine pure energy like essence. Now, I have done it. This way, it will produce a huge might in actual combat." The waterfall grew endlessly. After it was split in half, it quickly mended again. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of purple light. Then, he landed firmly on the riverbank. All the essence in Xiao Chen's body trembled. All the water on his body and in his clothes immediately evaporated. His entire body became very dry. This caused Xiao Chen, who had been soaking in the water for the past half-month, to feel incredibly comfortable. He felt an indescribable carefree feeling. When Lu Suifeng saw Xiao Chen leaping out of the water, his face immediately filled with a smile. He quickly ran over to Xiao Chen and smacked Xiao Chen's shoulder. "Yi Chen, you finally came out. If you still did not come out, your elder brother Suifeng would have died." "Oh. Why is your shoulder so hard?" Before Lu Suifeng could finish speaking, he immediately cried out in pain. He held his right hand, which he used to smack Xiao Chen, and flung it around. In the heat of the moment, Lu Suifeng used 70 to 80% of his strength. In the end, it was like he had struck a heavy piece of frost iron. His entire palm was red and swollen. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He checked his body with his consciousness. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art was still circulating on its own. Xiao Chen had already been reborn. His meridians were like dragon veins, his bones were tougher than a tiger's. After the dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated, his body could be said to be even harder than steel. He could not control his strength, it would automatically rebound back to the person who attacked him. After Xiao Chen checked the situation, he immediately stopped circulating the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. He smiled apologetically, "Sorry, I forgot to stop earlier. It's fine now. How about you punch me again?" Lu Suifeng looked at his swollen palm. How could he dare to continue? Wasn't that just seeking trouble for himself? Lu Suifeng shook his head vigorously and smiled embarrassedly, "There's no need, there's no need. I appreciate your kind intentions. I'll leave first. This time, I nearly died because of you. Elder brother Yi Chen, you finally came out. I was so worried about you." Lu Ruyue, who was following behind Lu Suifeng, immediately flew over and hugged Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen felt the girl's soft body, he felt slightly embarrassed. This was especially so since he was in front of Lu Ruyue. He blushed slightly and put by down, "Don't hug me like this in front of so many people. The pressure is too great." Chapter 351. Bai's eyes were filled with doubt. He asked curiously, "There's a lot of pressure. Is Bai very heavy?" Lu Ruyue slowly walked over and smiled gently. "How could Bai be heavy? It is just someone who is embarrassed." Xiao Chen smiled awkwardly. He looked at the two of them and said, "Sorry for making you worry." While cultivating, although Xiao Chen's mind was completely immersed in cultivation, his divine sense had always spread out in the surroundings, so he knew the situation outside like the back of his hand. Lu Ruyue's actions caused Xiao Chen to feel somewhat apologetic. If such a dangerous matter was seen by someone who cared for him, they would definitely be worried. At that time, he would not be able to consider everything. Lu Ruyue said softly, "There is no need to be so pretentious between us. Come, let's go back and rest first." The three of them slowly walked back. Along the way, Bai was the most active among the three of them. He talked about all kinds of things and asked questions that made people not know whether to laugh or cry. The atmosphere was very relaxed. Time flew, and soon it was the end of the month. During this period, Xiaoqin was not as crazy as before. Every day, Xiaoqin would only spend half a day cultivating. He would spend the rest of his time with Bai and Lu Riyue, wandering around the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. After being in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion for such a long time, Xiaoqin had not taken a good look around the Heavenly Saber Pavilion yet. Perhaps he would not have the chance to be as free as he was now. Thus, when Lu Riyue suggested walking around, Xiaoqin did not hesitate and immediately agreed. As it neared the end of the month, the atmosphere of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was extremely busy. Occasionally, experts from various places would come over. These were all solitary cultivators or some of the smaller sects or clans. They did not receive an invitation from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Xiaoqin had brought many gifts, hoping that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion would give him an invitation. He wanted to show his face at the welcoming ceremony, to see if he could leave an impression on the people of the Holy Land. Some sects had especially outstanding disciples, so they were even more eager for an invitation. If the people of the Holy Land were interested in their disciples, they would definitely be able to enter the Holy Land. That clan or sect would immediately become a first-rate or second-rate faction in the Great Qin nation. According to tradition, every time a Holy Land took away a person, the Holy Land would not be able to take them away. Most importantly, they would receive the protection of a Holy Land, and no one would dare to cause trouble for them. Xiaoqian's Holy Land would protect them, and no one would dare to make trouble for them. The endless stream of people made the disciples at the foot of the heaven viewing platform with their flying spirit beasts earn so many spirit stones that their hands went limp. Almost as soon as he picked up one person, another customer came to his door immediately. The sky-gazing mountain was high and steep. If one walked up, even if they ran at full speed, it would take a regular cultivator at least half a day. How could these anxious people bear it? Naturally, they all fought to become flying spirit beasts. Xiaoqin looked at the foot of the heaven viewing platform and the people holding on to hope. He sighed ruefully, the charm of the Holy Land is truly extraordinary. Just one news can shake up the entire Great Qin nation. Lu Riyue, who was at the side, said softly, "It can't be helped. In the eyes of ordinary people, the Holy Lands are like gods. With tens of thousands of years of inheritance, this kind of reverence is already ingrained in their bones." When Xiaoqin heard this, he frowned slightly and said softly, "How can the path of a martial artist be pinned on the gods? Let's go somewhere else. There is nothing much to see here." Lu Riyue could feel the sharpness and drive in Xiaoqian's words. She was mildly astonished. Xiaoqin did not seem to care much about the Holy Land. "In that case, let's go and take a look at other places. There is still a good place in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion that you have not been to yet," Lu Riyue smiled gently. After a while, the two of them arrived at the summit of a mountain. The mountain was more than 10,000 meters tall, which astonished even Xiaoqin. After walking 1,000 meters from the middle of the mountain, the entire mountain was shrouded in clouds. When they arrived at the summit, it felt like they were strolling in the clouds. After flying for so long, the two of them felt somewhat fatigued. When they arrived at the summit, they immediately sat down to rest. Looking at the boundless churning clouds, Lu Riyue had a melancholic look in her eyes. She said softly, "Yu Chen, the people from the Holy Land will be here in 3 days. You will be leaving the Heavenly Saber Pavilion after the competition, right?" To Xiaoqin, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion was just a relay station. Lu Riyue knew long ago that he would not stop at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. After listening to the sword and communicating with it, Xiaoqin should have left already. However, he did not. Lu Riyue clearly knew that it was because he wanted to repay her kindness. Perhaps, he might even have some reluctance to leave. When Xiaoqin heard this, his expression did not change much. This was a problem that had troubled him for a long time in the past. However, when Lu Ryue chopped down that tree that night, he had already thought it through. Humans had 7 emotions and 6 desires. If they suppressed it, a heart demon would appear. On the path of a cultivator, emotions were not a stumbling block for them. Xiaoqin did not know that when he thought of this, he had unknowingly cleared the biggest obstacle in a cultivator's life, emotions. Emotions were difficult to overcome. In history, there were many experts and geniuses. However, too many of them fell because of emotions. They suppressed their emotions in the depths of their hearts. There were even some resolute people who cut off their emotions and walked the path of cultivation alone. When they reached the bottleneck of the peak, a heart demon would appear. In the end, they would never be able to cross that bottleneck. In the end, they would never be able to reach the peak. After muttering to himself for a while, Xiaoqin looked at Lu Ryue and said seriously, "Ryue, I like you. One day, I will not let Qingyun Peak become a burden to you. I will bring you along with me." When Lu Ryue heard this, she blushed slightly. She did not expect the normally reserved and somewhat wooden Xiaoqin to say such bold words. Lu Ryue was stunned for a long time, unable to say anything. Seeing Lu Ryue lowering her head in silence, Xiaoqin suddenly laughed loudly. Lu Ryue raised her head and looked at Xiaoqin. Her gaze was filled with doubt as she asked, "What are you laughing at?" Xiaoqin did not stop laughing. He continued, "Ryue, I really like you. I'm really an idiot. Only now do I realize that I like you even more than I imagined. Actually, I should have said this long ago. Whether you are willing or not, I like you. If you are willing to wait for me, one day, with my strength, I will not let Qingyun Peak become a burden to you. I like you, Lu Ryue. I like you. I like you. I like your every word and smile. I like everything about you. I like how you treat me. I really like you," Xiaoqin suddenly said loudly. His voice was like rushing thunder, echoing 10,000 meters in the sky. The words, "I like you," caused the boundless clouds to scatter. They lingered in Lu Ryue's ears for a long time. Lu Ryue blushed. She covered Xiaoqian's mouth and said, "Don't be so loud. I know you like me." Xiaoqin looked at Lu Ryue, whose eyes were slightly moist. He gently removed her right hand from his mouth and held it tightly. Lu Ryue held Xiaoqian's hand. When she felt the temperature of his palm, her tears turned into a smile. She said softly, "I believe you can do it. I will wait for you at Qingyun Peak until you return." Xiaoqin gently pulled Lu Ryue's hand and pulled her into his embrace. The two of them did not say anything as they hugged each other tightly. 3 days later, the grand welcoming ceremony finally began. The entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion was immersed in a joyous atmosphere. All the inner disciples woke up early on this day. Xiaoqin was the same. Before the sky brightened, he had already put on his clothes and started practicing his saber techniques in the courtyard. There would definitely be a huge battle today. Be it Duanmuking, Mu Qingxue, Shi Feng, Yan Qixue, Hua Yunfei, or Ji Changkong, they were all outstanding talents whose names shook the region. Although Xiaoqin was confident that he could defeat them one by one, he did not dare to be careless. A cool breeze rustled and saber lights flickered. Xiaoqin executed all the martial techniques he knew. Of course, he only executed them once and did not use too much essence. Otherwise, if he executed them all, this courtyard would probably be destroyed. When Xiaoqin finished executing them, Lu Ryue, who had appeared at an unknown time, held a folded white robe in her hands. She had a faint smile on her face as she looked at Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin looked at the white robe in Lu Ryue's hands and felt a strange energy coming from it. He asked suspiciously, "Ryue, what is this?" Lu Ryue explained, "This is a secret treasure, one of the treasures of Qingyun Peak. It is called the Clear Wind Robe. After you wear it, it can increase your speed by 10% in all aspects. Be it dodging speed, attacking speed, or running speed, they will all increase by 10%. The most important thing is that it does not require you to expend any energy. It will automatically display its effects at all times. Xiaoqin received the white clear wind robe and revealed a joyful expression. If he had only heard the first part, it would not have been a big deal, it would only increase his speed by 10%. However, with the last part, this clear wind robe was worthy of being called a treasure. It did not require any essence to display its effects at all times. It was equivalent to permanently increasing a cultivator's movement technique by 10%. Furthermore, it would increase as the cultivator's speed increased, there was no limit. When used together with Xiaoqian's windwalk shoes, it was a perfect match. Don't just stand there. Quickly put it on and familiarize yourself with it, Lu Riyue said as she gently pushed Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and nodded. He took the white robe and walked to the bedroom. Then, he took off his jacket and changed into the clear wind robe. After Xiaoqin put on the robe and fastened his belt, he looked at himself in the mirror. In the mirror, Xiaoqin was dressed in white robes. His complexion was pale and there was a blue strip of cloth tied around his head. After the Scarlet Throne's mark was covered, Xiaoqian's aura became very otherworldly. Compared to his usual aura, there was an additional scholarly aura. This completely covered up all of Xiaoqian's killing intent. This was only the change in appearance. What shocked Xiaoqin even more was the internal change when he put on the robes. When he put on the robe, thin energy lines that could not be seen by the naked eye immediately shot down from the surface of the white cloth. They entered his skin through his pores and quickly connected with all the cells and meridians in Xiaoqian's body. Xiaoqin waved his hand. He immediately felt that his waving speed was much faster than usual. He raised his leg and took a step forward. Who knew, this step was much faster than he expected. He lost his balance and nearly fell over. This was because his speed had suddenly increased by 10%. Before his body could get used to it, Xiaoqin quickly understood the reason behind it. Chapter 352. Xiaoqin was not unfamiliar with this phenomenon. In the past, when the dragon and tiger body sculpting art advanced, his strength would increase as well. After that, his body needed some time to get used to it. However, an increase of 10% was not much. After 5 minutes, Xiaoqin had gotten used to this speed. He pushed open the door and slowly walked out. When Lu Riyue saw the white-robed Xiaoqin, her eyes lit up. She smiled gently and said, "I did not expect white clothes to suit you. I feel that you should wear white in the future." Bai, who had just come out of the house, stretched his body. When he saw the white-robed Xiaoqin, he ran over and smiled, "Elder brother Yichen, you look better today." Xiaoqin smiled faintly, "Very well, I will listen to you. I will wear white in the future." After the three of them washed up and ate breakfast, Lu Suifeng led Xiao Meng and Xiao Yang to Xiaoqian's courtyard. When Lu Suifeng saw the white-robed Xiaoqin, he was about to step forward and pat him out of habit. However, he remembered the previous encounter and quickly withdrew his hand. He smiled and said, "Yichen, you look pretty good today. You will definitely be able to achieve victory. After you make a name for yourself, you might even obtain the title of White-Robed Bladesman." Lu Riyue, who was at the side, said, "Don't just talk about Xiaoqin. You have to perform well today as well. Don't embarrass our Qingyun Peak." When Lu Suifeng heard this, he quickly changed the topic. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Don't say anything. Let's quickly go to the heaven viewing platform first." Lu Suifeng led the way, and Xiaoqin and the others followed closely behind. After they descended the mountain, they immediately headed for the heaven viewing platform. There was a lot of people along the way. They were all disciples heading for the heaven viewing platform. This time, almost all of them were inner disciples. This included those who were in closed-door training or those who went out on experiential training. They all returned to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. This was several times grander than the previous core disciple exam. The main road was very lively, and the sounds of discussion never stopped for a moment. Up in the sky, countless spiritual beasts flew towards the sky viewing platform, as though they were covering the entire sky. In addition to the disciples of the sect, most of them were small forces that had received invitations. Generally, large forces would have their own warships. He would definitely not ride a flying spirit beast. Even if he did, he would ride a flying spirit beast of rank 6 or above. Only then would he be worthy of his status. Occasionally, there would be a few strong auras flying over the heads of the crowd. The Martial King experts, who were normally hard to come by, were actually nothing more than street goods today. With a quick glance, Xiaoqin saw several peak Martial Kings. There were even quite a few peak Martial Kings. Who? Suddenly, an extremely powerful aura flew over everyone's head. It was an old man in a black robe, and he flashed through the air with a young man. Sensing this powerful aura, Xiaoqin couldn't help but take another look. That person gave him the feeling that he was a long sword that could cut through the sky, radiating light in all directions, unstoppable. Even though this person had only released his aura unintentionally, Xiaoqin felt a horrifying pressure. The person who went over earlier seems to be Feng Shuani. I did not expect him to come personally. The young man he is bringing seems to be his grandson. I heard that his talent is very shocking. I guess he is here to try his luck. The attraction of a holy land is really great. I remember when the Misty Sword sect master wanted to take his grandson as his final disciple, he was rejected by this old man. Isn't that for sure? How can a sect like the Misty Sword sect compare to a true holy land? It is not even worth mentioning. The people beside Lu Suifeng watched the old man leave. As they walked, they discussed. When Xiaoqin heard this, he felt curious. He asked Lu Suifeng, "Who is this Feng Shuani? He seems very famous." Lu Suifeng explained, "That person is a famous swordsman in the great Qin nation. He is not even 70 years old, but he is already a martial monarch. I heard that he is the most likely person to become a sword sage in recent years. However, he is independent and does not belong to any power." No wonder Xiaoqin felt so much pressure. It turned out that Feng Shuani was a sword monarch. A holy land was indeed a holy land. Even cultivators who had the chance to advance to sword sage could not resist the temptation. As Xiaoqin continued forward, he met a few peak experts like Feng Shuani along the way. There were even more half-step martial monarchs. Xiaoqin saw at least 10 of them. It looked like it was as Lu Suifeng said, all the experts of the great Qin nation were here. At the foot of the heaven viewing platform, there was no way to ride a flying spirit beast. There were simply too many people going up the mountain. Often, when a disciple with a flying spirit beast picked up a guest, a large group of people would immediately surround him. There was no way to snatch the spirit beast away. When Lu Suifeng saw all this, he sighed and said, "It looks like we can only walk up. The heaven viewing platform is high and steep. Even if we travel at full speed, it will take us at least 2 hours." Lu Riyue said softly, "There is no need to go through so much trouble. Xiaoqin and I can just fly up with 2 people each. Although it is slower than flying at full speed, it is much faster than walking up." That was a good idea. Just like that, Xiaoqin carried Lu Suifeng and Xiao Yang, Lu Riyue carried Xiao Meng and Bai. They slowly flew up together. After 1 hour, the 6 of them slowly landed on the heaven viewing platform. The crowd on the heaven viewing platform was much denser than at the foot of the mountain. The 6 of them were nearly separated by the crowd. There were several newly built arenas on the largest drill grounds of the heaven viewing platform. The arenas were all made of the hard heavenly mountain stone. Then, a layer of frost iron was poured on the surface. Only a large sect like the Heavenly Saber Pavilion could spend so much money to water the arenas with frost iron. The surroundings of the drill grounds were filled with spectator stands from low to high. The spectator stands were already filled with cultivators. Aside from the Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples, there were even more cultivators who came from other places. The place was densely packed with people. The rostrum at the very front of the drill grounds had already been expanded. It was now twice the size of the previous rostrum. Behind the rostrum was a row of tables and chairs that were clearly higher than the previous ones. The elders of the elders' assembly had already taken their seats. If one looked carefully, they would discover that the first elder, Jiang Qi, who usually sat in the middle, was not sitting in the middle. Instead, he was sitting on a chair at the side. On both sides of the rostrum, there were many simple but very grand tea tables. It would not be a problem to seat thousands of people. On the left side were the seats for the people of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Tianyue Peak was the closest to the rostrum. Next was Gangyu Peak, Jade Maiden Peak, and Qianduan Peak. The 7 peaks were arranged in order from strongest to weakest. Aside from Qingyun Peak, the people of the other 6 peaks were all present. These peaks had their own warships, it was not strange for them to be faster. There were even more tea tables on the right side. There were at least a dozen of them. The people seated there were all the clans of the great Qin nation. The weakest of them was a power like the Whitewater City's Jiang clan. The few tea tables near the rostrum were empty. This was prepared by the Heavenly Saber Pavilion for the noble clans and large sections. Without a certain amount of strength and resources, it was impossible to get close. Little brother Jiang, when will the people from the Holy Land fall? The one who spoke was the sword monarch, Feng Shuani. His tea table was on the right side. Currently, he was the closest to the rostrum. Only someone of his status would dare to address Jiang Qi as little brother. Jiang Qi did not get angry at such a form of address. The other party was much stronger than him. Logically speaking, he should be a junior. Jiang Qi smiled gently and said, "Brother Feng, don't be impatient. The people from the Holy Land arrived yesterday. They are currently checking the bones of our young pavilion master." Feng Shuani picked up the teacup on the tea table and took a sip. He said, "Let me congratulate little brother Jiang Qi first. This time, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion has produced an absolute genius. At the age of 17, he became a peak inferior grade martial king. In the future, he will definitely regain his glory." "That's right. Congratulations, Elder Jiang Qi," the group of family heads and solitary experts on the right said in unison. Jiang Qi smiled faintly and responded to them one by one. He was clearly in a good mood. Just at this moment, a pure black warship flew over from the sky. A black banner fluttered on the bow of the warship. There was a flamboyant Ji character on the banner. "The people from the Nanling province's Ji clan are here." The person standing on the bow seems to be the genius of the Ji clan, Ji Changkong, the people in the spectator stands around the drill grounds exclaimed. After a while, another warship slowly flew towards the platform. It was the Hua clan of the Dongming province's inherited noble clan. Not long after, a huge ice bird carrying an ice palace on its back slowly flew over everyone's heads. It's the Duanmu clan's profound ice palace. Duanmuking is here as well. The Guyi Marquis of the royal court, Ying Shao, is here as well. The Guyi Marquis is a genius with a holy weapon. I wonder how he will perform this time. The Night Spirit Palace's warship is here as well. The 2 geniuses of the Nanling province, Mu Qingxue and Ji Changkong, are here as well. Heavens! The Misty Sword sect's King Grade warship is here as well. Could it be that their sect master is here as well? The 3 great sects are all here. This is definitely the first time in the history of the great Qin nation. The crowd was completely excited. These strong noble clans and sects that normally dominated their regions were all here. More importantly, the geniuses of these sects were all here as well. More than 100 geniuses gathered in one place. Just thinking about it made the people below excited. Soon, the tea tables on the right were filled with people. As expected, the table closest to the platform was occupied by the Misty Sword sect, followed by the Night Spirit Palace. In the end, the Misty Sword sect's sect master did not come. Instead, the Misty Sword sect's first elder, Ling Chen, came. He was a half-step martial monarch. His position in the sect was second only to the sect master. His status was similar to Jiang Qi's. Ling Chen glanced at Feng Shuani, who was not far away. He smiled gently and said, "Senior Feng, my sect master once personally came to take your grandson as his final disciple." However, Senior did not agree. "Now that the Holy Land is here, you come uninvited. Isn't this a little too much?" Feng Shuani's old face glistened with divine light. He did not look old at all. When he heard Ling Chen's words, he said indifferently, "This old man admires the Misty Sword sect's sect master's attainments in swordsmanship. However, it is not to the point of reverence. My grandson's talent is even higher than mine. In the future, he will definitely become a sword monarch. If he does not have the confidence to become a sword sage, I will not let him enter any sect. I will teach him myself." Chapter 353. Beside him sat a green-clothed youth, about 17 or 18 years old. He had delicate features and looked like a youth. However, his temperament was very calm. When he heard the older generation talk about him, his expression did not change at all. He was like a silent sword. Ling Chen smiled gently and glanced at the silent youth. He ignored him, but he felt it was unfortunate. This youth's talent was only slightly inferior to Chu Chaoyun's. At a tea table at the back, Duanmuking's cold and beautiful face was expressionless. He was looking at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion tea table in front, searching for something. When Ji Changkong saw Duanmuking's gaze, he smiled gently and said, "Miss Duanmu, who are you looking for?" Duanmuking withdrew her gaze and said indifferently, "Are you still not clear who I am looking for?" Hua Yunfei, who was at the side, took over the conversation and said, "It seems like that person has not arrived yet. I did not see him make a move the last time. Who knows, we might be able to confirm his identity this time." In the past year, many outer disciples of the noble clans had died a violent death. Someone had chopped off their heads. It was clear that someone had taken them to the Flying Snow Mountain Manor to claim the bounty. To these noble clans, it was not a serious matter. However, it caused the noble clans to lose a lot of their prestige. Furthermore, after more than a year, the noble clans had not even found a trace of Xiao Chen. They were a joke to the world. Duanmuking said sullenly, "Everyone should have no doubts about the agreement we made before we came, right?" A murderous intent flashed in Hua Yunfei's eyes. He said fiercely, "Don't worry, this fellow killed several elders of my clan. If we can confirm it, I, Hua Yunfei, will be the first to step forward." Ji Changkong's gaze was calm as he said indifferently, "He killed my uncle. Mother already gave me the order to kill him." Chu Chaoyun, who was at the very front, saw all this. There was a look of mockery in the depths of his eyes. However, he hid it very well, almost no one noticed it. At the tea table beside the Misty Sword sect, Mu Qingxue gently held his teacup. Occasionally, he would glance at the empty tea table on the left. That was the tea table reserved for Qingyun Peak. Beside him, Mu Yanxue and Shi Feng sat quietly. In order to be closer to the people from the sacred grounds, Shi Feng didn't choose the Shi family's table this time. Instead, he wanted to bask in the glory of the Night Spirit Palace, so he sat at the second table on the right. "Eldest senior brother, it seems that fellow hasn't come out yet. You promised to teach him a lesson on my behalf. You won't go back on your word, will you?" Shi Feng said with a gloomy expression. Mu Qingxue smiled faintly. The copper mirror in the depths of his eyes spun continuously. He placed the teacup on the table and said, "Don't worry. You gave me 1,000 medial-grade spirit stones. I will not take your things for nothing." The leader of the Night Spirit Palace this time was the first elder of the sect. He sat at the very front of the tea table. When he heard Mu Qingshue's words, he frowned slightly and said, "Qingxue, whether the Night Spirit Palace can form a connection with the Holy Land or not depends on you and Mu Yanxue. Don't spoil the important matter because of your personal grudges. Mu Qingxue replied respectfully, First Elder is right. However, I will help junior brother Shi as well. I will help him vent his anger and let the people of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion know that the people of our Night Spirit Palace are not so easily bullied. The First Elder nodded and said, I heard about Shi Feng's matter as well. He has indeed tarnished the reputation of the Night Spirit Palace. It would be good for you to teach this person a lesson. On the streets of the Heaven Viewing Platform, Xiao Chen, who was bravely advancing through the crowd, did not know that before he appeared, he had already attracted the attention of countless people. Lu Ryue looked at the crowd and said, Yi Chen, there are too many people. This is a waste of time. Let's work together to open a path. Xiao Chen already had this intention long ago. The crowd was so crowded that it made him feel frustrated. The two of them immediately released their energy and formed a cone-shaped shockwave. The two ferocious energies merged together and immediately opened a wide path through the crowd. The group ignored the curses of the people around them and increased their speed by several times. Lu Suifeng smiled and said, We should have done this long ago. When Yi Chen and I fight for Qingyun Peak and perform well, we will go to the Elders' Assembly to request a flying warship. In the future, we will not have to be so annoying. 10 minutes later, the group of 6 finally arrived at the gates of the drill grounds. Lu Ryue handed over her golden identity token. After Lu Ryue handed over her golden identity token, the disciples outside immediately led the 6 to a secret path. They did not lead them to the spectator stands like the others. The exit of the secret path was actually behind the platform. That disciple said respectfully, Marshal Aunt Lu, let's go up quickly. The elders have been waiting for a long time already. After Lu Ryue expressed her thanks, she led the 5 of them to the limestone steps of the platform. Before they reached the platform, Xiao Chen could feel strong auras. There were even a few that he was familiar with. After climbing the long flight of stairs, the group finally arrived at the top. Xiao Chen immediately felt countless gazes filled with ill intent directed at him. Xiao Chen looked down and remained calm. He ignored all these gazes. Ryue is late. First Elder, please forgive me, Lu Ryue said to Jiang Qi, who was on the platform, with a cupped fist salute. Jiang Qi smiled gently and said, You are not late. The people from the Holy Land have not arrived yet. Take a seat first. I am filled with anticipation for Yi Chen. After everyone sat down, servants immediately placed some snacks and fruits on the table. Then, they filled the teacups with water. When Xiao Chen saw the figure of the Biyun Peak's peak master, Song Ke, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He gave Song Ke a deep look before withdrawing his gaze. Now was not the time to deal with this person. Without an elder's guarantee, if he killed this person, he would offend the entire Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Song Ke, who had his back to Xiao Chen, felt like someone had used a sharp knife to carve his back. It was incomparably painful. It must be that brat's killing intent. To think it is so horrifying. Song Ke clenched his remaining fist tightly. His heart was filled with hatred. When Xiao Chen walked onto the platform, the delicate youth beside Feng Shuani raised his eyebrows slightly. A sharp gleam appeared in his calm eyes. He could not help but release his sword intent. What's going on? I can't control my sword intent. The youth was shocked. He looked at Xiao Chen with caution. Sword intent would only react like this when it felt danger or a strong killing intent, protecting its master from danger. However, the youth did not feel any killing intent from Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was dressed in white robes and had a calm expression. There were no fluctuations in his emotions at all. The youth frowned slightly. He could not figure it out no matter how he thought about it. So he whispered into Feng Shuani's ear. When Feng Shuani heard this, he felt it was strange as well. He looked at Xiao Chen with a deep gaze. It was like a sharp sword tearing through space, trying to see through Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen moved his spiritual sense and immediately felt a strong mental energy sweep past him. The strong spiritual sense turned into a sharp blade and sliced through this mental energy. After that, he quickly formed a protective barrier around his body, preventing the other party's mental energy from probing him again. At the same time, he extended his spiritual sense along with the other party's mental energy, trying to find out who was spying on him. This series of actions happened in the time it took for a spark to fly. Xiao Chen only needed a thought to complete it. It was shockingly fast. However, the other party had abandoned this strand of mental energy, making it impossible for him to track it. After Xiao Chen's spiritual sense scanned the air once, he could only return helplessly. However, he maintained the protective barrier formed by his spiritual sense. As Xiao Chen looked at the crowd, he felt somewhat suspicious. Who exactly was it that was spying on him? That strong mental energy from earlier was on a completely different level compared to a regular martial king. Only a half-step martial monarch or a martial monarch would have such an ability. Half-step martial monarchs and martial monarchs were not people that Xiao Chen could afford to offend. Even if he found them, it would be useless. I'll just keep an eye on them. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and ignored them. On the other side, when Feng Shuani saw Xiao Chen's reaction speed and his strong mental energy, he was shocked speechless. He had not expected Xiao Chen to react so quickly. However, he finally understood why his grandson's sword intent had erupted uncontrollably. Fengtsen, when you meet this person later, be careful. This person is hiding an extremely strong state of massacre. Your will of the sword has already reached small perfection. You can feel a threat from him, which is why you automatically protected yourself. Feng Shuani projected his voice and told Fengtsen everything he saw. Originally, he had intended to observe a little more. Who knew, Xiao Chen's reaction was too fast. Furthermore, his mental energy was strangely strong. Feng Shuani only managed to see something related to the state of massacre. While waiting for the people from the Holy Land to arrive, the crowd at the tea table started chatting. After all, there were so many geniuses. Normally, it was rare for them to gather together and discuss the problems of martial cultivation. This would be beneficial to everyone. About an hour later, a red sun suddenly appeared in the clouds 10,000 meters high in the sky. When the crowd looked up carefully, they discovered that it was not a real sun. Instead, it was a huge, fiery red bird connected from head to tail. Every feather carried a scarlet flame. It was blazing and boundlessly resplendent. With one glance, it looked like another sun. The air in the drill grounds immediately turned scorching hot. It was like all the air had been burned dry, making breathing difficult. Chi! A melodious phoenix cry resounded. The vermilion bird spread its wings and soared. Instantly, the might of an ancient holy beast spread throughout the drill grounds. Many experts felt a wave of pressure. The martial spirits in their bodies stirred restlessly. They felt an instinctive fear from the depths of their hearts. Their essence became chaotic, rampaging through their bodies uncontrollably. Their meridians ached dully. The cultivators quickly suppressed the chaotic essence in their bodies and stabilized their minds, controlling their restless martial spirits. Who? The fiery red vermilion bird gently flapped its wings and withdrew its divine might. The crowd immediately felt the pressure on them lessen. All the discomfort they felt vanished, and they felt much more relaxed. This is the holy beast vermilion bird. What a horrifying pressure. Fortunately, it only lasted for an instant. Otherwise, I would not be able to suppress my martial spirit any longer. Even before the battle, my essence is in chaos, and my martial spirit is already out of control. If I clash with the people from the Holy Land, I will probably be defeated in one move. Chapter 354. The people of the Holy Land are indeed not people we can guess at. They are too strong. The crowd and the spectator stands all looked up to the sky. When they saw the beautiful scarlet vermilion bird, their eyes were filled with fanaticism and awe. Compared to the others, Xiaoqian did not feel anything. He did not feel any pressure at all. Song Ke had already shattered his martial spirit and it was hidden in more than 300 acupoints in his body. There was only one chi whirlpool left in his body. Hence, his expression was calm, everything was normal. Looking at the fiery red vermilion bird in the sky, Xiaoqian's lips curled up in a mocking smile. This is interesting. The moment he appeared, he used the aura of a holy beast to put on a show of strength. He wanted everyone to know who the main character was. Now, it circled around in the air a few times but still refused to come down. Does it like the attention of the crowd that much? Boom! 5 minutes later, the vermilion bird circling in the sky turned into a beam of fiery light and landed on the platform. In a breath of time, it landed firmly on the ground. 5 people wearing long red robes appeared before the crowd. There was a golden vermilion bird embroidered on their robes, covering their entire body. There was an old man and 4 youthful boys and girls. There were 2 males and 2 females. The males were handsome and elegant, and the females were beautiful and pure. They were very pleasing to look at. There was no aura scattered. The energy from the fall of 10,000 meters was perfectly merged into the ground, vanishing into thin air. This showed their strong control over their strength. Xiaoqian was rather impressed by this move. If it were him, he would not be able to do it so casually and naturally. The first elder, Jiang Qi, quickly stood up. He had a respectful expression and some anticipation as he asked the old man, Elder Yan, "How is our young master's talent?" The old man with the family name Yan smiled gently and said, "His aptitude is excellent. He can cultivate in the Phoenix's Passion Palace for 3 years. If his comprehension ability is high, he might even become a core disciple of the Phoenix's Passion Palace." The group of Heavenly Saber Pavilion elders all had smiles on their faces. Even the usually calm Jiang Qi had an excited expression on his face. "Many thanks, Elder Yan," Jiang Qi cupped his hands in thanks. "Greetings, Elder Yan." The clan heads and elders on the platform reacted and immediately stood up. They cupped their hands in greeting to the Phoenix's Passion Palace's elder. Elder Yan raised his hands slightly. The smile on his face did not diminish, making him look very amiable. However, there was an undetectable hint of arrogance in his words. He said, "Everyone, there is no need to be so polite. I am only an outer elder of the Phoenix's Passion Palace." After everyone sat down, they discovered that the people from the Holy Land were much more amiable than they had imagined. Their favorable impression of the Holy Land increased even further. Xiaoqian's eyes were as sharp as lightning. He caught a flash of arrogance in the old man's eyes. The arrogance of the youths behind him was even more obvious. The Phoenix's Passion Yen slowly sat down and said softly, "The Phoenix's Holy Land. Sect's Holy Land, sect, palaces, sect." At the same time, I wanted to see if there were any geniuses that could be excavated in the great Qin nation. That was why I asked Elder Jiang to help me invite everyone here. Feng Shuani asked softly, "Elder Yan, can you tell us more about the sacred grounds selection criteria?" Elder Yan replied, "It is similar to what everyone is thinking. There will be a competition that will allow us to see the actual combat abilities of the cultivators. After that, we will measure their aptitude. However, there is a threshold before that." "What threshold?" Feng Shuani asked. Elder Yan glanced behind him and a young man immediately walked out. This person's name is Luo Li. He is ranked within the top 100 of our Phoenix's Passion Palace's outer disciples. As long as you can exchange 10 moves with him, you will be qualified to participate in the grand competition. Otherwise, if there are too many of them, it will be troublesome. When the crowd heard that Xiaoqian had only exchanged 10 moves with an outer disciple, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. This person was only a superior grade martial saint. He should have no problem exchanging 10 moves. Luo Li sneered in his heart when he saw everyone's expressions. This group of lowly people really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do they really think that it's so easy to last 10 moves against me? Luo Li pushed his feet off the ground and moved through the air in a red arc. Then, he landed firmly on an arena. Wherever it passed, the red sparks on the streamline would linger for a long time. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Elder Yen nodded and said, "Let's begin. If you are confident in your strength, you can come forward and give it a try. Those who can last 10 moves will be qualified to participate in the grand competition." Elder Yan's voice was not loud, but it was exceptionally clear. Every cultivator in the spectator stands could hear it clearly. As long as one could last 10 moves, they would be qualified to participate in the grand competition. When they heard this, almost all the cultivators were tempted. Their expressions were filled with excitement. Although they knew that the Phoenix's Passion Palace disciples were extraordinary, if it was only 10 moves, most of the cultivators felt that they could give it a try. Who? A gray figure descended from the spectator stands and landed firmly on the ground. It was a cultivator who was confident in his own strength and had come to test his moves. This gray-robed cultivator was no older than 20 years old. He had a squarish face, thick eyebrows, and large eyes. He looked very ordinary and had a sword hanging at his waist. However, his eyes were spirited and his steps were majestic. With one look, it was clear that he was an expert. This person performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Shiha Province's Flowing Clouds Sect Yi Fan. Please give me some pointers." So, it is the Flowing Clouds Sect Yi Lan. This Flowing Clouds sect is considered a large sect in the Shiha province. Yi Fan is the strongest person in this sect. If he makes a move, he should be able to test out the strength of the Holy Land's people. Yi Lan has been a medial grade martial saint for a long time. He should not have any problems enduring 10 moves. If even he cannot do it, then half of the people here will be eliminated. Some of the people who recognized Yi Lan started discussing in soft voices. Luo Li wore red robes and his long hair fluttered in the wind. A look of disdain flashed in his eyes as he said indifferently, "You are not worthy. Let me give you some pointers. One move is sufficient to defeat you." Arrogant. I want to see how incredible the Holy Land's people are. When Yi Fan heard this, he became slightly angry. He placed his right hand on his sword hilt and drew it with a shwa sound. He brandished his sword and in an instant, he sent out thousands of sword lights at Luo Li like a torrential storm. The sword images flickered and the wind howled. Every strand of sword light contained a trace of cold chi. When there were thousands of sword lights, there were thousands of strands of cold chi. The temperature of the arena immediately plummeted. The surface of the arena, which was infused with frost iron, was soon covered in a layer of ice. This is the Flowing Cloud Sect's Ice Sword Shadow, a peak Earth-ranked martial technique. I did not expect this Yi Lan to have practiced it to small perfection. He can send out thousands of sword lights in an instant. The sword chi covered in the state of ice is not easy to break. An elder leading the Misty Sword Sect's team commented from the platform. The Misty Sword Sect of the Great Qin Nation was an expert in using the sword. Their understanding of sword techniques was definitely higher than everyone else's. Everyone nodded to themselves at his comment. The only sword monarch present, Feng Shuani, also felt that this sword shadow was not easy to break. Although Yi Fan had not comprehended the state of ice, the ice on the ground showed that his understanding of ice was very close to that of a state. When the Phoenix's Passion Palace's elder Yen saw all this, he smiled faintly. He was not worried at all. He thought to himself, if I can't even break this sword technique, then why did I call Luo Li out to embarrass himself? When Luo Li saw the ice sword shadow filling the sky, the corner of his lips curled up. He revealed a mocking expression, "You have not even comprehended the state of ice, and you are not embarrassed to come out and embarrass yourself. Melt." After Luo Li spoke, a ring of red flames appeared under his feet. The flames rose up from his feet and circled around his body. Finally, they formed a fiery red vermilion bird image. Z. Z. A heat wave invisible to the naked eye spread out from Ro Li's body. The ice on the ground was instantly evaporated into water vapor. After a while, the ice sword shadow slowly melted in the air. When it was 10 meters away from Luoli, the cold chi on the ice sword shadow had all evaporated into steam. With the disappearance of the cold chi, the ice sword shadow was completely broken. All the ice sword shadow automatically dissipated in the air. Everyone in the spectator stands had their mouths agape. They had never imagined that the thousands of sword shadows would be broken so easily. Everyone thought that the ice sword shadow would not be able to injure Luoli. However, they did not expect him to break it without even making a move. Feng Shuani suddenly understood. He muttered, "One has not even comprehended a state, while the other has comprehended the state of fire to great perfection. Furthermore, he has the support of an ancient divine beast martial spirit. They are on completely different levels." Boundless steam spread out in the arena, covering Luo Li's figure like a mist. Hu Qi. The steam filled the air and a fiery red figure soared into the sky. Then, he turned into a beam of red light and flew rapidly towards Yi Fan. Pa! While Luo Li was in the air, before he got close, he sent out a palm strike. When the palm wind struck the air, it gave off a boundless roar and formed an intense chi tornado. Flames surged out from the chi tornado. In an instant, the force of Luo Li's palm strike brought out a large flaming tornado. The flaming tornado formed a strange formation in the air. It vaguely looked like the silhouette of a vermilion bird. While this palm strike looked simple, it was actually very profound. When Yi Fan saw the flaming tornado in the sky, his expression changed drastically. He placed 2 fingers on the bottom of his sword and quickly slid upwards. Every time his fingers slid upwards, the light on the sword became brighter. When his fingers slid past the tip of the sword, a boundlessly resplendent sword light soared into the sky. The sword light was 30 meters long and extremely sharp. Its aura was vast and mighty, trying to scatter all the flames in the sky. Suddenly, Luo Li shouted in the air. The vermilion bird martial spirit above his dantian immediately gave off a melodious cry. A strand of holy might shot at Yi Fan at lightning speed. The vast holy might caused the martial spirit in Yi Fan's body to tremble involuntarily. His essence immediately became unstable. The incomparably sharp sword light immediately showed signs of loosening. That incomparably sharp aura disappeared without a trace in an instant. Chapter 355. It's over, Yi Fan thought in horror as his complexion paled. He felt like he had fallen into an abyss. Bang! The flaming tornado instantly scattered Yi Fan's sword light, which had lost its sharpness. The horrifying energy struck Yi Fan's body without holding anything back. Yi Fan vomited a large mouthful of blood in the air as he was flung high into the air. His skin was already charred black. Just at this moment, a figure broke through the flames and ruthlessly smashed a palm strike on Yi Fan's chest. Yi Fan's injuries worsened as he vomited another mouthful of blood. His body fell outside the arena. When the boundless flames scattered, only an unharmed Luo Li remained in the arena, standing proudly. I said I would defeat you in one move, so I will defeat you in one move. Next. Luo Li's cold and arrogant voice resounded throughout the drill grounds. Under the blazing sun, the originally bustling drill grounds fell deathly silent. No one said a word. Luo Li thought in horror as he watched the heavily injured and unconscious Yi Fan being carried away by the flowing cloud sect elders. How is this still an exchange of moves? Xiao Chen frowned slightly. This person was too ruthless. If he could not withdraw the flames, then he did not even need to use the final palm strike. However, this person still attacked. It was clear that he wanted to beat the other party half to death, showing no mercy. After the crowd fell silent for a while, another person came down to challenge. There were always people who were confident in their strength. Enduring 10 moves did not seem too difficult. Once they passed, they might be able to enter the Holy Land. At that time, they might become as strong as the other party. This person was slightly stronger than Yi Fan. He had already comprehended the state of wind to small perfection. He managed to endure 9 moves after much difficulty. Luo Li was slightly injured and exhausted a lot of his essence. However, he still had most of his strength. He thought joyfully, I just need to endure 1 more move. However, Luo Li smiled coldly. He unleashed the holy might of his ancient martial spirit again. His opponent's martial spirit trembled, and his essence became unstable. An opening appeared, and he was sent flying in the final move. You can't even withstand a single blow. Next. You are full of openings. How embarrassing. Scram. Trash wants to enter the Holy Land to cultivate. Go down. For a time, more and more people came down to challenge him. However, all of them were defeated by Ro Li. Some did not even last 5 moves and were directly knocked down. Some managed to endure 9 moves, but Luo Li immediately unleashed the holy might of his vermilion bird martial soul for the final move. Using the might of a divine beast, Xiaoqin caused the other party's martial spirit to tremble and essence to become unstable, forcefully breaking the other party's killing move. Just like that, dozens of people went down. Many of them were outstanding talents from various regions, and their strength could be said to be terrifying. However, none of them could last more than 10 moves against the other party. Furthermore, those who went up were all heavily injured, a tragic sight to behold. Luo Li showed no mercy at all. When Feng Shuani saw this, he found it hard to bear. He said to Elder Yen, isn't this threshold a little too strict? Since it is a threshold, can we not use sage might and test it with our strength? Feng Shuani's words were also what the others were thinking. If they did not use their holy might, there should be at least 10 people who could last 10 moves. However, once Luo Li used the vermilion bird's holy might, he would be unrivaled within the same cultivation realm. Even an inferior grade martial king that was 1 grade higher would not be a match for him. Elder Yen smiled faintly and said, Everyone, this holy might is actually the most crucial part of the threshold. If one cannot even withstand the holy might, then what is the point of entering our sect? Furthermore, this Luo Li's vermilion bird bloodline is not of the direct line of descent. It is already very diluted. It is not considered much in our sect. When the crowd heard what Elder Yen said, they could not find any reason to refute. Even if they could only keep it in their hearts. Who asked him to control the Holy Land's selection? How could they dare to refute him? As the crowd spoke, another disciple in the arena got his internal organs ruptured by Luo Li's palm strike. He vomited blood and rolled off the arena. It was a tragic sight to behold, he was in a sorry state. When one looked carefully, this person was actually the 9th rank Li Yuza of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Wind Cloud list. Unexpectedly, he could not last more than 10 moves against Luo Li. The strength of the Holy Land's people is indeed horrifying. Unexpectedly, even the 9th rank Li Yuza of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's Wind Cloud list could not last more than 10 moves. Many of the cultivators in the spectator stands recognized Li Yuza. They all exclaimed in astonishment. Luo Li looked at this person indifferently and smiled coldly. With such strength, he can be ranked 9th in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion? The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's ranking is too worthless. Even trash like him can make it onto the ranking. When many of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples heard this, their faces turned red. They felt humiliated and could not suppress the rage in their hearts. They wanted to jump down and teach this person a lesson. However, when they thought of his strength, they felt helpless. If senior brother Murong had not left, this person would not have the chance to be so arrogant, using the might of the Holy Spirit. This is too much, many of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples said angrily. When Jiang Qi, who was on the platform, heard Luo Li's words, his expression changed as well. Elder Yen smiled and said, Elder Jiang Qi, don't mind him. Youths always have their sharpness. Don't take it to heart. When Jiang Qi heard Elder Yan siding with Luo Li, he smiled embarrassedly to indicate that it was fine. Then, he looked at Shao Chen below the platform. After thinking for a while, he said, "Yi Chen, go down and exchange moves with this disciple from the Holy Land. 10 moves will do." 10 moves. In that case, 10 moves, Shao Chen thought to himself as he looked at Luo Li, who was looking at him mockingly. "Yi Chen, be careful," Lu Riyue said worriedly as she held Shao Chen's hand under the tea table. Shao Chen turned his head and glanced at Lu Riyue. There was no fear on his delicate face. He smiled gently and said, "It's fine. He is not a match for me. I can defeat him in 3 moves." Hu Qi. Shao Chen slowly stood up and pushed off the ground with his feet. He turned into a purple beam of light and instantly landed on the arena. "It's Yi Chen." Yi Chen came out. "Even without Murong Chong, Yi Chen will definitely take revenge for us." Indeed, how could we forget about Yi Chen? Yi Chen even defeated Murong Chong before. He will definitely be able to last 10 moves. Yi Chen, don't disappoint us. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion disciples below the arena looked at the white-robed Shao Chen who had landed on the arena with a calm expression. Their originally powerless hearts became hot-blooded again as they cheered. Their blood had not turned cold yet, and their beating hearts could still burn. When the severely injured Li Yuza saw Yi Chen appear, he said unyieldingly, "Is he Yi Chen?" "Recently, I have been hearing this name a lot in the Shihe province. He was the one who killed the evil beast on the Black Dragon River. Not only did he kill the black tuna whale that time, he even killed the expert of the older generation, Yu Mingshan, who chased after them. Previously, I heard that there was a youth called Yi Chen wandering around and killing many high-ranked spirit beasts. It looks like he is the one." Now, Yi Chen's name was no longer as obscure as before. He represented the leading figure of the younger generation in the Shihe province. In many people's hearts, he was already the second Murong Chong. It could even be said that he had already surpassed Murong Chong. The white-robed Shao Chen had a calm expression on his face. He turned a deaf ear to the voices around him, unfazed by honor or disgrace. An empty reputation would forever be an empty reputation, there was no need to be anxious or happy. The corner of Luo Li's lips curled up, revealing a mocking expression on his handsome face. He smiled faintly and said, "It looks like you are extraordinarily popular. However, you are just a person from the lower realm. You will never know how high the heavens are. No matter how strong a genius is, they are not even comparable to dog shit in my eyes." Shao Chen smiled gently and looked at Luo Li calmly. He said, "You are just an unranked disciple of the Holy Land. Don't think that you are a god. In my opinion, you are the one who is looking at the sky from the bottom of a well, not knowing how big the heavens are." Shao Chen's words seemed to have struck a chord in Luo Li's heart that he could not touch. A trace of anger flashed on Luo Li's face as he said coldly, "I will make you scram off this arena within 3 moves. Is that so?" "I seem to have promised someone to defeat you within 3 moves, Shao Chen smiled gently. Luo Li's expression turned sullen as he snorted coldly, "Arrogant." Boom! Luo Li shouted, and a scarlet flame immediately soared up from his feet. It circled around and formed the image of a vermilion bird behind him. Then, he sent out a palm strike. The wind in the air exploded. The force of this palm strike blasted out countless intense cyclones. Flames soared in the cyclones, forming many 100-meter-tall flaming tornadoes in the blink of an eye. The rings of flames of various sizes formed a strange formation in the air. From a distance, it looked like the rough outline of a vermilion bird. It was this move again. Many experts from before had fallen to this move. Shao Chen used the power of the vermilion bird to create a destructive force that could sweep away all obstacles. Shao Chen's eyes lit up, and his expression was resolute. He placed his right hand on the lunar shadow saber and drew his saber at lightning speed just as the flaming tornadoes were about to hit him. Rumble. Suddenly, thunder roared in the calm sky. Purple lightning tore through the air and infused into the lunar shadow saber. The snow-white saber immediately flickered with a purple light. Xiaochen moved forward at lightning speed and hacked down. The saber passed right through the center of the vermilion bird's head. He wanted to break the power of this move with this saber strike. The sharp saber strike contained the purest state of thunder. Everywhere the saber light passed, it tore through everything. Pu ci. Everyone in the drill ground seemed to hear the mournful cry of a vermilion bird in their minds. Then, the flaming tornadoes and the layers of horrifying tornadoes shattered. The scattered flaming tornadoes blew wildly in the surroundings, blasting the 4 fences of the arena until only 4 lonely pillars remained. The pillars were charred black. Ka-xie. Ka-xie. After that, the 4 pillars shattered piece by piece. Unexpectedly, they were all charred from the inside out. This showed how tyrannical the power of this flame was. Seeing Xiaochen easily break the martial technique that Luo Li was so proud of, countless people thought to themselves, good. When Luo Li saw his proud martial technique, the flaming phoenix chain burst, being broken in the most direct and decisive manner, his expression changed slightly. Luo Li pushed off the ground and soared into the air. The vermilion bird image behind him flapped its wings gently. As the vermilion bird flapped its wings, Luo Li's aura started to soar. Soon, it reached its peak, and his state of fire reached its peak. Chapter 356. A formless scarlet flame enveloped Luo Li's entire body. The temperature in the arena rose rapidly, and the frost iron under his feet became shockingly hot. Xiaochen felt like his windwalk shoes were being roasted by a furnace. The soles of his feet felt extremely uncomfortable. Just as Xiaochen was about to circulate his essence to resist, a cool breeze blew from the windwalk shoes. The temperature immediately dropped. Unexpectedly, the windwalk shoes had such a function. This inadvertently helped Xiaochen a lot. When Xiaochen saw the situation, he stopped moving. This move contains the vermilion bird sword chi that contains a peak state. Let's see how you break it, Luo Li said coldly as his aura reached its peak. Luo Li's entire body became like a sharp, bright red sword. He held 2 fingers on his right hand together and pointed at Xiaochen. A scarlet sword chi quickly appeared. It gave off a piercing sonic boom as it shot towards Xiaochen. Its speed was very close to the speed of sound. The scarlet flaming sword chi contained a state was extremely sharp. Before it got close, Xiaochen could already feel its sharpness. Xiaochen moved back gently and moved at lightning speed. He decided to avoid the sharpness for now. Z. Z. A finger-sized hole immediately appeared where Xiaochen originally stood. Unexpectedly, it pierced through the frost iron. The terrifyingly high temperature caused the frost iron to sizzle and steam to rise. Chi! 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 Strands of scarlet sword chi rained down like arrows. Xiaochen retreated again and again. You think you can retreat? Ha ha! I have a total of 999 strands of sword chi in this move. Let's see how you can retreat. Stand down and die. Luo Li laughed maniacally in the air as he watched Xiaochen retreat. The vermilion bird image behind him flapped its wings continuously. When Xiaochen saw the vermilion bird flapping its wings behind him, he entered deep thought. He muttered to himself, so that's how it is. Suddenly, Luo Li's feet left the ground. Half of his body was already dangling at the edge of the arena. The hearts of the spectators jumped. The entire place immediately fell eerily silent. Is Yichen going to be defeated as well? Everyone thought unwillingly. The state of thunder that had already gathered in the air churned ferociously. Muffled thunder roared continuously. Arclight slash. With a shout, Xiaochen swung his saber. The purple saber chi drew a long arc in the air. The end of the arc was pointed at the vermilion bird image behind Luo Li. Creak. With a painful wail, the vermilion bird stopped flapping its wings as if it had been struck by lightning. Bang! When the attacks landed on the vermilion bird, it was like they landed on Rowley himself. Rowley fell heavily to the ground with a pale complexion. The sword chi that filled the sky immediately disappeared above Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. His white robes fluttered in the wind as he walked forward. Damn it! When Luo Li saw the relaxed Xiao Chen, he roared ferociously and smashed the ground with his right palm. Hu Qi! Hu Qi! Instantly, countless small red flaming birds flew out from the ground. They chirped continuously, filling the sky with red flaming birds. Each of these flaming birds could easily blast apart a small mound. With so many of them, they would be able to flatten a mountain. Wukuei transforms to Qi. Xiao Chen brandished his saber as he advanced step by step. The divine Wukuei tree appeared from nowhere and turned into strands of dense purple saber Qi. The purple saber Qi flew everywhere in the air, shattering the flaming birds into sparks and shattering them. Sparks filled the sky and deafening explosions resounded above Xiao Chen's head. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He walked at a moderate pace as his white robes fluttered. He continued to walk towards Rowley, who was on the ground. Ha ha! You actually dare to get so close to me. Do you really think this move is over? 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix, combine. Rowley laughed maniacally from the ground. The countless sparks in the air immediately gathered at a certain point. A horrifying aura spread out, and a fiery red vermilion bird quickly formed in the air. Qi breaks Wukuei, break. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He did not stop moving as he formed hand seals with his left hand. The drifting purple energy in the air quickly gathered together with Xiao Chen's hand seals. When the vermilion bird completely formed, a strand of dense purple saber Qi flew out at lightning speed. In an instant, it shattered the vermilion bird that had just formed into dust. Not good, Elder Yen, who was in the spectator stands, thought to himself as he watched Xiao Chen slowly walk over with a calm expression. Elder Yan's expression changed slightly as he sent a voice projection to the other man behind him. Luo Huang, Rowley might be defeated. Prepare to make a move at any time. 3 moves have passed. You are full of openings. You are here to embarrass yourself. I hope you can receive 3 moves from me. Xiao Chen said calmly as he looked at Rowley, who had an expression of disbelief on his face. This was not the first time Rowley had said this to the people he knocked off the arena. When he heard Xiao Chen return it to him, he felt humiliated in his heart. Do you think you have won? I still have not used my holy might. How can an ordinary person like you understand the horror of a holy might? Rowley said with a sinister expression. Originally, Rowley thought that he could defeat his opponent without using his holy might. That way, he would be able to humiliate his opponent even more. Now, it looked like he was the one being humiliated. The vermilion bird above his dantian cried out. Immediately, a strand of vast holy might shot at Xiao Chen. Blue dragon cloud soaring art, roaming dragons 9 transformations. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and instantly split into 9. 9 cool breezes blew in the arena. Xiao Chen's killing chi was completely gone, no one could even feel his killing intent. How can this be? My holy might, which has always been successful, is actually useless. My opponent's movements are perfect and flawless. It does not look like he is affected by the holy might at all. Rowley's expression changed drastically. This time, he finally felt some horror. He quickly retreated, but the 9 figures had already surrounded him. The cool breezes hid a boundless killing intent. There was no way for him to retreat. The 9 silhouettes merged together in the air. The killing intent that had disappeared suddenly exploded, covering the sky and covering the earth, covering the entire arena, making it impossible for anyone to hide. This made Rowley feel that he was so close to death for the first time. Aside from the holy might, he was just a top-notch genius. His strength was close to that of Duanmuking and the others, perhaps even slightly weaker. Now that the holy might had lost its effect, Ro Li's heart was in complete chaos. Furthermore, the overwhelming killing qi immediately made him lose his wits. A resplendent saber light immediately lit up on the snow-white saber. Then, it stabbed into Ro Li's chest, 10 centimeters away. This was Xiao Chen holding back. Otherwise, this saber would have stabbed into Ro Li's heart. The vermilion bird embroidered in golden thread on the scarlet robes suddenly lit up with a golden light. The resplendent golden light prevented Xiao Chen's saber from stabbing into the robes. It is actually a secret treasure. The people of the Holy Land are really generous. Even an outer disciple has a defensive secret treasure, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Ro Li's pale complexion immediately regained its color. He laughed loudly and said, I nearly forgot. I have a secret treasure with me. You cannot injure me. This robe is an imitation of an ancient secret treasure, the golden jade robes. However, it is useless to tell you. You are just a lower realm bumpkin. You probably do not even know what a secret treasure is. Ha ha ha. Ignorant. The people of the Holy Land are actually so ignorant. Xiao Chen was speechless. With a thought, a strand of the state of massacre on the scarlet throne quickly flowed out. Ro Li's smile froze very quickly. Suddenly, a red light appeared on the dazzling purple saber. With a chi sound, the tip of the saber easily pierced through Ro Li's robes. Blood spurted out of the wound. Ro Li grabbed the saber with his hand and said in a fluster, How can I be injured? A lower realm bumpkin actually injured me. One move. Xiao Chen quickly withdrew his saber. Drops of blood dripped from the tip of the saber onto the arena. Bang! Xiao Chen gently raised his right foot and stomped down heavily. After the dragon and tiger body sculpting art reached consummation, this was the first time he used the full strength of his physical body. Countless cracks instantly appeared on the surface of the arena, which was made of frost iron. The cracks spread rapidly, and countless pieces of frost iron flew into the air with a loud boom. The huge force sent Ro Li flying uncontrollably. His complexion paled, and he vomited another mouthful of blood. This kick contained 50,000 kilograms of force. If it landed on his opponent's chest, it would be sufficient to shatter his internal organs and severely injure him to death. For the third move, I will return a palm strike to you. You are not qualified to say whether the Heavenly Saber Pavilion is trash or not. As for you, without the vermilion bird martial spirit, you are just trash. On the platform, Luo Huang's expression changed slightly. He pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of red light, flying over quickly. He shouted, Stop! Xiao Chen could not be bothered with Luo Li. He stood up and sent a palm strike at Ro Li's chest. Ro Li's body immediately shot backward like a cannonball. Luo Huang caught Ro Li's body in midair. However, he did not expect the force in Ro Li's body to be so ferocious. It was like catching a mountain. A muffled sound came from Ro Li's chest. His body soared up and quickly spun in the air, trying to dissipate the force. Good. This time, the many cultivators in the spectator stands could no longer suppress the excitement in their hearts. They all shouted out loud. Many of the cultivators who went up earlier were all sent flying by Ro Li's palm strike. Then, he spoke extremely humiliating words. Many people wanted to step forward and send out a palm strike. However, they did not have the strength to do so, so they could only suppress it in their hearts. Xiao Chen's palm strike and his words struck the bottom of their hearts. They vented the anger they had been suppressing in their hearts. On the platform, Lu Riyue looked at Xiao Chen, whose white robes fluttered in the wind. There was an indescribable smile in her eyes. At a tea table not far away, Yun Kersen, who was similarly dressed in white, watched Xiao Chen. She revealed a faint smile on her delicate face and said softly, "This is the sharpness that a bladesman should have. Who cares what holy land it is? If you humiliate me, I will return it tenfold, 100-fold. A golden warship floated above the clouds 10,000 meters in the sky. A golden flag fluttered on the bow of the warship. This was the incomparably huge flagship of the Imperial Dragon Legion. The beautiful Princess Yu, who wore golden battle armor, was playing with a wooden sculpture on the deck. The girl depicted on the sculpture wore a long red dress. She was extremely beautiful and very lifelike. This was especially so for her intelligent eyes. They made the sculpture seem alive, showing the exquisite craftsmanship of the person who carved it. Chapter 357. It no longer looked like an inanimate object. Instead, it looked like an absolute beauty that could come to life at any moment. The girl in the statue was Princess Yu herself. Yu smiled gently and said, "Not bad. You hand in your homework every month. Furthermore, they are all different." Nangong Lai, who was not far away, had a wide smile on his face. He said, "This brat unintentionally helped us a lot this time. The legend of the Holy Land will become a joke." Yu withdrew her smile and put away the statue with a flip of her hand. She peered through the boundless clouds and saw the situation in the drill grounds. She muttered, "There is no such thing as a true legend in this world." However, this time, he really helped us greatly. In the desolate back mountains of the Lingyun mountain range, where the reincarnation well was, 8 old men in red robes were carefully inspecting the seal in the reincarnation well. Suddenly, the expression of the leading old man changed. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the heaven viewing platform. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion's 9th elder, who was beside him, asked cautiously, "Elder Luo, did something happen?" The 9th elder could not help but feel nervous. The old man before him was an inner sect elder of the Phoenix's Passion Palace, ranked 6th. His words already carried some weight in the inner sect, the outer sect elders could not compare to him. His cultivation was unfathomable. The person responsible for repairing the seal this time was this person. Elder Luo withdrew his gaze, and an imperceptible rage flashed in his eyes. He smiled faintly and said, "It's fine. The seal is much better than I expected. Who knows, we might be able to repair this spatial crack. Even if we cannot, the Heavenly Saber Pavilion will not have to worry about a demonic calamity within 100 years." Luo Huang, who had finally recovered from the force, landed firmly on the heaven viewing platform's drill grounds. He gently placed Luo Li down and glared at Xiaoqin angrily. "Friend, aren't you a little too heavy-handed?" "I already said to stop," Luo Huang said with a cold gaze and a sullen expression. "What a joke. Now you know that you are too heavy-handed and say to stop. Earlier, Luo Li injured so many people. Why did you not say to stop? It seems like we are not humans in your eyes." Xiaoqin replied indifferently, "My skills are inferior. What's the point of saying so much?" Luo Huang laughed coldly and said in an icy voice, "What a good, I am inferior to you. In that case, if I kill you now, you will have nothing to say, right?" When Xiaoqin felt the other parties killing Qi, he moved back slightly and adjusted his body's condition to its limits. He said softly, "You can't do it. How much stronger are you compared to him? Holy might is useless against me. In my eyes, you are just ordinary martial saint experts. Reckless fool." With a flip of his palm, a sword appeared in Luo Huang's hand. Killing Qi gushed out from his entire body. Sword light danced as he executed a killing move, flying towards Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin was fearless. He held his saber with one hand and flew into the air. Clang clang clang. The two of them crossed each other in the air, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of moves. Their weapons clashed, and the sound of metal clanging rang out continuously. After they parted, the two of them quickly turned around and started fighting again. Each move was more dangerous than the previous, they did not leave any leeway for themselves. Saber Qi and Sword Qi flew everywhere in the arena. The strong frost iron was riddled with holes from the shockwaves of the two's attacks. It was beyond recognition. Soon, the arena that the heavenly saber pavilion had prepared meticulously shattered. It became a scene of desolation. There was no place that was even. The two of them were cultivators who comprehended states. Every move they made caused intense energy fluctuations in the surroundings. Occasionally, there would be sparks and lightning in the surroundings of the battle. However, Xiao Chen's state had merged with his blue dragon's holy might. Furthermore, it had undergone the baptism of the heavenly Daos. It was much stronger than his opponents. After 200 moves, Luo Huang slowly fell into a disadvantage. Xiao Chen pressed on, not wanting to give his opponent a chance to go all out. He infused his strong state of thunder into the state of massacre once again. A red light appeared in the purple saber light. The sharp state of massacre instantly turned the berserk state of thunder sharp and horrifying. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen brandished his saber thrice, breaking his opponent's sword technique like breaking dead branches. When faced with Xiao Chen's sudden increase in saber technique, Luo Huang was clearly caught off guard. Luo Huang, who was already at a disadvantage, lost all his sword technique. He looked like he was about to lose. Ding! Xiao Chen knocked away Luo Huang's sword with his saber. Then, he leaned forward and sheathed his saber. Then, he sent a palm strike at his opponent's chest. Luo Huang vomited a large mouthful of blood and flew out of the arena. The second person from the Holy Land had been defeated by Xiao Chen with one palm strike. Senior brother Luo. The two Holy Land female disciples on the platform exclaimed. They flew over and caught Luo Huang. After the two girls treated Luo Huang's injuries, they did not say anything. They just drew their swords and flew into the arena, charging at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "If one is not enough, then the two of you attack together. However, if you are not strong enough, what is the point of having more people?" Ka Xie. Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber again and executed the blue dragon cloud soaring art. Then, he activated the windwalk shoes. Originally, Xiao Chen's heaven-ranked movement technique already allowed him to be much faster than regular cultivators. Now, with the windwalk shoes and the clear wind robes, his speed increased by 30%, reaching Mach 2. Only a white figure could be seen in the arena, moving around. Boundless saber chi appeared and disappeared mysteriously. By relying on his advantage in speed, Xiao Chen fought 1 against 2. Unexpectedly, he held a suppressive advantage. He suppressed the two Phoenix's Passion Palace female disciples to the point where they could not even retaliate. They could only bitterly endure and deal with Xiao Chen's unpredictable attacks. It was a one-sided situation. After the 100 moves were over, Xiao Chen infused in the state of massacre once again. Xiao Chen's saber technique immediately became twice as sharp as before. The strong force knocked away the swords of the two people. Bang! Bang! Xiao Chen sent out 2 palm winds, and the 2 female disciples from the Holy Land followed in his footsteps again. They were knocked off the arena with 1 palm strike. The spectator stands were deathly silent. They all looked at Xiao Chen with astonished gazes. Originally, they thought that it would be pretty good if Xiao Chen could help them vent their frustrations. However, he defeated 4 people from the Holy Land in one go. How strong was he? It was not just these people who did not expect this. The other people on the platform did not expect this either. Even Elder Yan's face was filled with shock. His eyes filled with disbelief, his brain short-circuited. Although these disciples were ranked in the top 100 of the outer sect, they were peak geniuses in the lower realm. How could someone defeat them all in one go? Mu Qingxue, who was on the platform, took a sip of tea. Then, he slowly put down the teacup and looked at the white-robed Xiao Chen in the arena. Mu Qingxue revealed a playful smile as he said indifferently, "I love watching people fall from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. The higher you fly, the more painful the fall will be. Today, I will throw you to your death." After Mu Qingxue spoke, the rapidly spinning copper mirror in the boundless depths of his right eye suddenly stopped spinning. A beam of white light tore through the air and shot out. The white light did not contain any killing qi. It was silent and did not give off any energy fluctuations. Before Xiaoqin could react, the white light struck him. In the next moment, Xiaoqin was startled. The bones in his face started to change rapidly. Xiaoqin wanted to stop it, but that strange white light turned all of his efforts into nothing. No matter what he did, he could not stop it. Xiaoqin used the shape-shifting spell and slowly recovered his appearance. His originally delicate and ordinary face, aside from his fair complexion, had turned into a handsome and elegant young man with well-defined features. The people in the spectator stands were no stranger to this face. This was because there was a wanted poster of this person in every big city within the great Qin nation. As long as one entered or exited a big city, they would be attracted by this huge wanted poster. Many of them even had thoughts of capturing this person and claiming the reward. On the platform, the various noble clans' heirs were no stranger to this face. If this person was not the Xiaoqin that they had been searching for more than a year, who else could it be? On the platform, the Guyi Marquis, Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, Hua Yunfei, Shi Feng, and Yan Qishue's expressions all changed greatly. The noble clan elders behind them all had sullen expressions as well. Although they had already expected this, when the result appeared before their eyes, they were still caught unprepared. The person who had been wanted for such a long time was actually hiding in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Furthermore, he had become the strongest of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion's third-generation disciples, his name shaking the Shihe province. Lu Ryue's expression changed slightly. She was somewhat astonished as she said, "Yichen. How could it be Xiaoqin?" Everyone in the spectator stands could not accept this fact. Earlier, Yichen was a genius disciple of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, he had become a wanted criminal of the noble clans. Who? After Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, Hua Yunfei, and the Guyi Marquis recovered their wits, their figures flashed, and they landed firmly on the ground. Hua Yunfei looked at Xiaoqin and smiled coldly. "You killed my clan's elder and hid for more than a year. So, you were hiding in the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. No wonder I could not find you. Even if the Heavenly Saber Pavilion protects you today, you will not be able to escape death. You killed my uncle. You have to stay here today," Ji Changkong said expressionlessly as stars flickered in his eyes. There was no expression on Duan Muqing's cold face. She said indifferently, "Between you and me, we can only fight." The Guyi Marquis wore golden battle armor and slowly drew his holy weapon, the sky-splitting sword. He pointed it at Xiaoqin and said, "No one has ever survived after injuring me." Who? A figure flashed over. It was the Shihe province's Yan clan's Yan Qishue. Yan Qishue looked at Xiaoqin and said indifferently, "My second brother's whereabouts are unknown because of you. I will not make things difficult for you. I will just leave behind an arm." Ha ha ha. A burst of maniacal laughter came from the sky. It was Shi Feng flying over quickly. He said in a loud voice, "Xiaoqin, you did not expect such a day to come, right? Back then, you humiliated me in Shihe City. Today, I will trample on you ruthlessly." Xiaoqin closed his eyes and looked at Shi Feng flying over. He thought to himself, "It seems like anyone can step on me. However, who do you think you are, Shi Feng? How dare you shout at me?" Xiaoqin suddenly opened his eyes. A murderous intent appeared on his sharp face. Chapter 358. Xiaoqian's originally reserved aura was no longer hidden, his sharpness was unrestrained. He pushed off the ground and soared into the air. The dragon and tiger body sculpting art circulated at full force. The roars of dragons and tigers came from the acupoints in his body. Dragons and tigers circled around him as Xiaoqin opened his fingers. His knuckles crackled. Xiao Chen's figure shifted slightly and he dodged Shifeng's attack. Then, he punched Shifeng's chest. Ka-xie! Ka-xie! The rock in front of Shifeng's chest shattered. He vomited a mouthful of blood in the air and flew back. He landed on the tea table in the Night Spirit Palace. Mu Qingxue was about to place the teacup down when Shifeng smashed the tea table into smithereens, leaving it hanging in the air. When Mu Qingxue saw the pale Shifeng in a sorry state, he smiled and said indifferently, "Junior brother Shi, you are so weak. Why do you like to join in on the fun?" Shifeng felt very depressed. He felt that at least 5 of his ribs were broken. His internal organs were also injured. He had internal injuries and external injuries. He had completely lost his combat prowess. What a disgrace. Stand back. Don't embarrass the Night Spirit Palace, the Night Spirit Palace's first elder said with an extremely sullen expression. Shifeng struggled to stand up. He felt guilty in his heart. He lowered his head and did not dare to retort. Mu Qingxue gently let go of the teacup in his hand. The teacup immediately fell to the ground. However, it did not shatter like Mu Qingxue expected. Instead, it did not move at all. It is a little lively. Not just anyone can join in. Mu Qingxue picked up his beauty under the moon's sword and leaped into the air. Then, he appeared in the arena. Mu Qingxue looked at the white-robed Xiao Chen, who had already recovered his true appearance. He smiled gently and said, "There is still an unfinished battle between you and me. Let's end it today." Xiao Chen remained expressionless as he looked at Mu Qingxue quietly. He did not expect this person to be so shrewd. Mu Qingxue had discovered his true identity long ago but did not expose it. Today, his identity was exposed before the world, forcing him into a dead end. The people in the spectator stands were all shocked. The 6 noble clans worked together to put out a bounty on Xiao Chen's head. This was already unprecedented in the history of the great Qin nation. At this moment, another great sect had appeared. The chief disciple of the Night Spirit Palace, Mu Qingxue, also had a grudge against Xiao Chen. If he were to include the fact that he had just injured the people from the Holy Lands, then he would have offended even the Holy Lands. There would definitely not be another person with such boldness in the future. Even if the Heavenly Saber Pavilion wanted to protect Xiao Chen, they would have to think twice before doing so. The 3 strongest aristocratic clans, the Guyi Marquis, who held a high position in the prince's residence, and the Night Spirit Palace, one of the 3 great sections. With so many strong powers, they could sweep through half of the world. Who would dare to offend all of them? Only Xiao Chen would dare to do so. If you want to kill Xiao Chen, ask me, Lu Ruyue, first. A pretty figure on the platform drew a small saber in her hand. A strong aura of a martial king surged out and blocked in front of Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen saw Lu Ruyue's back, he could not help but feel a warmth in his heart. Only Lu Ruyue would protect him at the first moment. Although I, Lu Suifeng, am not strong enough, if anyone wants to kill my brother, they will have to ask me first. Lu Suifeng had rushed over as well. The noble clans also want to kill people in my Heavenly Saber Pavilion. I, Mu Qin, Zhang Lai, will not allow it. Zhang Lai and Mu Qin, who were in the spectator stands, flew over as well, blocking in front of Xiao Chen. Bai, you have to protect elder brother Xiao Chen as well. If anyone wants to kill elder brother Xiao Chen, Bai will make a move on him. On the platform, the originally excited Bai was stunned when he saw the sudden situation. He did not know what was going on. After he figured out that someone wanted to kill Xiao Chen, his delicate face immediately sank. Hu Qi. Another white figure flew over in a flash. It was as quiet as a falling leaf. It was Yun Kursen standing on the platform. She placed her right hand on the saber hilt at her waist, blocking in front of Xiao Chen. She did not say anything, but her actions clearly showed her attitude. If you want to kill Xiao Chen, you will have to ask for my saber's permission first. On the spacious arena, the scene of the two sides facing each other appeared. Boundless killing intent filled the air. Boundless killing chi spread out in the air above the arena. Both sides did not give way, clashing with each other. Winds blew, clouds churned, and the sky changed color. Before the previous wave had settled, another wave rose. The crowd originally thought that Xiaoqin had entered a dead end. They did not expect so many people to come out to protect him. At this moment, if one asked who was in the happiest mood, it would be Song Quebec. The others felt conflicted in their hearts, but Song Ke felt carefree. Originally, they thought that Xiaoqin had outstanding talent and had caught the attention of the elders' assembly. However, now they discovered that Xiaoqin was a wanted criminal. Furthermore, he was wanted by the big powers of the great Qin nation at the same time. His chance had come again. Heavens will made a fool out of people. There was a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. What else was worth being happy about? When Song Ke thought of this, he could not help but laugh. He said loudly, "First Elder, this Xiaoqin hid his identity and entered our heavenly saber pavilion. He has ulterior motives. He wants to draw the conflict between the heavenly saber pavilion, the holy lands, and the noble clans to the heavenly saber pavilion. He is simply trying to destroy our heavenly saber pavilion, destroying our 10,000 years of foundation. His intentions are sinister and vicious. He must be killed." Song Ke used his identity as the Biyun Peak's peak master to throw a few hats at Xiaoqin. He wanted to consign him to eternal damnation. Jiang Qi looked coldly at Song Ke and ignored his words. He projected his voice and sent a voice transmission to Xiaoqin, "I don't care what your identity is. I only have one question. Are you going to join the Divine Saber camp? As long as you say the word, my heavenly saber pavilion will deal with this for you." Jiang Qi's words rang out in Xiaoqin's mind. He shook his head slightly. He could not stay in the heavenly saber pavilion. "Many thanks for Elder's kind intentions. Sorry, I cannot accept it." "In that case, you are asking for it. Don't blame me for being merciless." If Xiaoqin could not stay in the heavenly saber pavilion, then no matter how talented he was, his glorious future would have nothing to do with the heavenly saber pavilion. Since that was the case, there was no need for Xiaoqin to deal with this unexpected calamity. Jiang Qi said sullenly, "All heavenly saber pavilion disciples on the platform, listen up. Quickly withdraw. My heavenly saber pavilion will not interfere in personal grudges." After Jiang Qi spoke, the people in the arena did not move. Instead, when the elders of the noble clans on the platform heard Jiang Qi's declaration, they all became restless. However, just as they stood up, they felt a formless killing intent heading for them. Let the youths deal with their own matters. Elder Ji, Elder Hua, what do you think? Jiang Qi looked at the elders of the noble clans and smiled faintly. However, the killing intent in his smile was not released. In the end, Jiang Qi still wanted to protect Xiaoqin, so he did not push things too far. Feng Shuani, who had been silent all this while, also smiled faintly and said, "I also feel that the youths should deal with their own matters. We old fellows should just watch. It has been a long time since such an interesting youth appeared in the great Qin nation. This old man is willing to help him. As for the outcome, it will depend on his luck." As Feng Shuani spoke, the strong sharpness of the sword monarch instantly encased the elders of the noble clans on the platform. A sword hovered above each of their heads. The elders of the noble clans smiled bitterly to themselves. They wanted to stand up but did not dare to. Even though they were dissatisfied, they did not dare to voice their dissatisfaction. When Xiaoqin felt the situation on the platform, he felt a warmth in his heart. "I will definitely repay this favor in the future." Sui Feng, Riyue, Kersen, Mu Chen, and Zhang Lai, Xiaoqin, thank you all. You may leave. Today's matter is a personal grudge between my noble clans. I have to settle this personally. Xiaoqin performed a cup-fist salute and persuaded Mu Chen, Zhang Lai, and the others to leave. Before Yun Kursen left, she said softly to Xiao Chen, Yi Chen, after this battle, I believe you will become a true bladesman. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, Are you so sure that I can clear this stage? Yun Kursen's delicate face was incomparably calm. She smiled gently and said, I said it long ago. My judgment of people has always been very accurate. After sending off Yun Kursen, Xiao Chen went over to Lu Riyue's side. He felt somewhat guilty and said with much difficulty, Sorry, Riyue. I lied to you for so long. The corners of Lu Riyue's eyes turned slightly moist. She said, Idiot, why did you not tell me earlier? Why would I blame you? Whether you are Xiao Chen or Yi Chen, in my eyes, there is no difference. The last knot in Xiao Chen's heart was untied. His sharp face immediately revealed a joyful smile. You may leave first. This is my karma. I have to settle it personally. Trust me. Lu Riyue knew that Xiao Chen had made up his mind. She nodded silently and left. After everyone left, aside from the noble clans, only Xiao Chen remained. Xiao Chen was dressed in white robes and had already drawn his lunar shadow saber. He swept his gaze across the faces of these people, Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, Hua Yunfei, Mu Qingxue, Yan Qixue, and the Guyi Marquis. For the past year or so, in order to hide from these people, Xiao Chen had changed his appearance, hiding his true appearance. No matter how quiet or low profile a person was, who would be willing to hide their true appearance and hide? Who did not want to walk openly in the world? These noble clans had had enough of it. He, Xiao Chen, had had enough of it as well. Today, he would put an end to this. He would make Yi Chen's name become history. He would make everyone only remember Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's gaze returned to the front. His expression did not change. He tightened his grip on his saber and said indifferently, Are you all coming at me together or one by one? Qi. When Duan Muqing, Ji Changkong, the Guyi Marquis, Hua Yunfei, and Mu Qingxue heard Xiao Chen's words, they all jumped off. These people were proud and arrogant, it was impossible for them to practice with others against Xiao Chen. Only Yan Qixue and Xiao Chen remained in the previously bustling arena. Yan Qixue felt depressed in his heart. His strength was considered the weakest among these people. Originally, he had intended to work together with the others to deal with Xiao Chen. Even if they did not work together, they would at least wait for everyone to finish fighting first before they went up. However, with the current situation, they could not retreat even if they wanted to. Otherwise, they would lose their face. There is no need to worry. He has fought many battles, he must have exhausted a lot of essence. I should be 50% confident, Yan Qixue consoled himself. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.